Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys, Awthentik and The Beard. I'm genuinely kind of excited to be here, man. Happy New Year to everybody. Y'all saw the title here, man. Giants and Commanders are just bad, and that's definitely just the facts. But not the only two teams to lose in the NFC East this week. The Dallas Cowboys actually being the only team to get a victory in the NFC East this week. The 49ers handled the Commanders here at FedEx Field. The Giants played a pretty decent game against the Rams, but all in all fell short on the goal line on that two-point conversion. And the Philadelphia Eagles, man, they took a severe loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Very unexpected. The Dallas Cowboys did beat the Detroit Lions. Although there was some controversy there, that was a really good anticipated Saturday night game. We're going to go over all four games today. We're going to start off with that Dallas Cowboys game, so I hope the Dallas Cowboys family is in the building. Big shout out to all of y'all. And like I said, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to the gang. Without further ado, let me bring in the best co-host in the country, the strong side to the left side duo, my brother from another. Big shout out to my Dukes one time. Mr. Beard is in the building. How you living, bro?
I'm doing good. I am doing great. It's 2024. Happy New Year to everybody here at the Awthentik and The Beard family. Listen, I love football. I feel like Steve Carroll and that's his name, right? Steve Carell in Anchorman. I love football.
Yeah.
That's just all I can say at this point. You know, like it's tough. It's tough.
I am authentic. I am Ron Burgundy.
It's just, you know, it's just the same old. I was really shout out Ref the District. They had a really crazy tweet earlier today about like everything, you know, like basically like Commanders, Washington, you know, statistics since their last Super Bowl, and it's dreadful, man. We've only had 3 playoff wins in like 30 years and like 3 double-digit win seasons, and it's like 26 quarterbacks and like 25 head coaches, and it's just bad. It's bad, and there's been a lot of mediocrity in there that makes you kind of like forget how bad it really is. I mean, I guess
some of those middling seasons.
Yeah, it just makes you kind of forget how bad it really is. And then you see teams like, you know, the Detroit Lions, who are just won their division. And like for a long period of time, the Detroit Lions were just like the laughing stock. You know that there is a possibility that you see I think there's only 3 teams that have ever gone winless in a season. I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Detroit Lions. You know, there's a possibility that you could see 2 of those teams in the Super Bowl, the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions.
I guess a possibility. But the Lions were right where y'all were at, just like you said. I mean, you know, they hadn't won their division since like 1993 or something like that. So these teams that are struggling or that were struggling, they're finally getting off the bench. The Miami Dolphins being one of those teams as well. You know what I was thinking about today, and I know we talked about this before we got on air, like how I was kind of trolling the New York Giants fan base today and whatnot. And I tweeted out, no player is off limits, in my opinion. I like to put that in the tweet so when people read it, they try to give me their opinion. I'm just like, yo, bro, this is just my opinion. Like, I would trade away anybody right now. I know we got some good foundational type of pieces, some cornerstone pieces, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas being at the top of that list. But, like, for the right price, listen, if somebody told me, listen, you could get Justin Jefferson if you gave us one of your top players, I would definitely consider it. So, for me, no players off limits. And what it made me think about, you know, now talking about the Dolphins and the Lions was Lermy. Dude was a cornerstone left tackle. They traded him away. He moved around. And I don't think either team's kind of really, you know, pressing about the issue anymore. So, I think that has been a big problem with at least our fan base. I don't know if that's the case for y'all, but, like, for us, we've, like, clung on to these players that have been here for so long. Guys like Sterling Shepard, guys like Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton. You know, these players have been here forever now. And you could even add Adoree Jackson to that. These guys who have been, like, tenured pretty long with the New York Giants. And for me, I'm just ready for brand new, man. Like, look, we had that season last year, overachieved a little bit. Got to the playoffs, won a playoff game. I'm sure you can relate, even though y'all didn't win as many games. Y'all won, I think, 7 games that year in 2020 when y'all went to the playoffs. But still, like, those seasons don't do nothing for your franchise. So for me, you know, I'm looking at the New York Giants right now sitting at the 5th pick. Washington got a top 2 pick right now. So, I know you weren't team tank, but I'm sure that's feeling a lot better going into the offseason here if y'all can maintain that second pick rather than having a pick later in the draft. But, I just think as fans, we can't get too caught up in just like, and now I kind of get it. Like a lot of people used to tell me like, yo, I root for the logo. And I am a players first type of guy. I root for the players for sure because they make up our army that goes out there on the field and goes to handle business that represents the logo. But at the end of the day, I think we just cannot get too caught up, too invested in feelings. I root for some of these guys on this team, obviously, to go out here and put their best foot forward. But when I see a play like the last play for the New York Giants, and, I put blame on Tyrod Taylor first, and then I talked about Saquon Barkley, like, how did you not get a hand on the ball? That's the part that was puzzling to me. Yes, I know it was Tyrod Taylor's fault. The throw was absolutely horrible. And I put that out there, and you could just see the Saquon Barkley mob. And I'm very, like, even keel. I'm like, I like Saquon. He's one of my favorite players. But if I see him do something on the field that I think could be done better and I call it out, I'm just doing that just to address it. I'm not sparing any of these players, right? And the Saquon mob, here they came right around that corner like, oh, you trying to blame that on Saquon? And I'm just like, bro, like, I said it was a horrible throw. They're like, no criticism for the players that you like. So, like, if you came out the house and I said, yo, Beard, your outfit is horrible, but the sneakers is nice, am I not giving you criticism? Like, I don't understand how these people don't just get it. Like, we can't just read English words for what they truly are. And I think because the Giants were so close in this game, it just makes it more difficult. You got a team that's surging towards the playoffs. Now the Rams have clinched their playoff spot, and the Giants compete with them. And, I get it. The fans getting reeled in. But for me, they're still meaningless games. They don't bother me one way or the other. I got reeled in a little bit, but at the end of the day, when we lose that game, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's very similar here in Washington, obviously. Like, we were tied with the 49ers. Like, it was like, so as a fan, it's natural to get excited about that, right? And then, it kind of just, it plays out the way that it was meant to play out. And I think that, as far as everybody's on the table, like, I've come to that sort of, stance too. I mean, a few weeks back, remember I said, if you look at this roster, there's no blue chip superstar on this roster. Right. Terry McLaurin is an absolute stud. I love Terry McLaurin. I will always love Terry McLaurin, right? Jonathan Allen, he's a stud. Daron Payne, he is a stud, right? But it comes to a point when it's like, it's just not working, right? And it's not necessarily the player's fault. Sometimes it is, but there's a lot of moving pieces that go into this. Coaching staff, front office, the competition that you're playing against, the schedule that you have. Like, there's so many different variables that go into it. And I actually was talking to somebody from the New York Giants fan base on Twitter because they said, this team is a quarterback away. And I said to them, listen.
Speaking on your team or on our team?
On the Giants.
Yeah.
I said, listen, this is coming from somebody who was you at one point. As close as the beginning of this year or off season, me saying stuff like that. And I said, you're not a quarterback away. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in that. And I think that I will stand here and say that 99% of the time when you say that your team is a quarterback away, they're not a quarterback away. And then, like,
crazy, though, I do think y'all were a quarterback away. I really do.
It's possible.
Like, we not a quarterback away. I think y'all needed some patches on the offensive line, obviously. But, y'all had a bunch of, like, locked-in pieces. That defense had 4 first-rounders on the front. The secondary was surging, and they looked really good last season, right? Linebackers, a little bit iffy, but you don't need everything to be perfect to be a Super Bowl roster, in my opinion. Chemistry is what I thought was lacking, and I think a lot of people overlook that even if you have the pieces around the quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, running back, all that, right? You still got to build chemistry with the quarterback and his weapons out there. And I think when you see teams, like the Dallas Cowboys, for instance, right, who have had the longest tenured quarterback in the NFL right now with Dak Prescott, you see the chemistry with CeeDee Lamb. You see the chemistry that was built fast with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and you see this across the league. Look at Tua in his first year with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and compared to the second year. Like, they're just stacking on what they have built already. So I think a lot of fans overlook that with these teams that, like, you got to build the chemistry and things got to get clicking. Like, just because you got names everywhere, the Atlanta Falcons are a good example of that. They got pieces everywhere on that offense, and that offense still stinks.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, is, like, you got to think about it. Like, when you're looking at your roster right now today and you say we're a quarterback away, you got to remember that there's a good chance that this roster that you're looking at today is not going to be anywhere close to what that it looks like going into next season. So it's like, yeah, you might be a quarterback away in hindsight if you can go back and replace a quarterback this year, but going into the next season, every single team's going to look different. The schedule that you play is going to look different. There's going to be injuries. There's always different variables that we just don't take into consideration when we look at this sort of situation. So it's going to be interesting going into the offseason. We've already seen.
Hope you're right about the Giants because we've been just running it back. It's getting frustrating.
Yeah,
you know,
there's
listen. He's here, maybe there, but it's like, listen, I've been looking at Daniel Jones throw the ball to Darius Slayton since 2019.
Since we started
while
this
Saquon Barkley has been in the backfield. Right. It's like I'm tired of it, bro. Just get me something new, get me something fresh here. I'm one of the people who have advocated for Saquon Barkley remaining a New York Giant, especially if you were to bring in a rookie quarterback, right? But if you really, really think about it, if they bring in a rookie quarterback, it's unlikely that he's going to start week one anyway.
Yeah.
So why do you need Saquon to be this transitional running back for a rookie quarterback? I think it's actually not important at all. And with more data, I've actually changed my opinion on that. I'm totally like, hey, if we got to let go of Saquon, do what you got to do. These guys, this New York Giants unit is not getting to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it straight up like that. So that's why I said today, like, I don't care. Like, none of these players are off limits to me, man. If you got to find a way to rebuild this thing from ground up, do what you got to do. I do think we have some pieces on the defensive side of the ball, especially some of the guys that have been drafted by Joe Shane, you know, and looking at Deonte Banks, looking at what Dane Belton did in this game, looking at Bobby Okereke, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, you got some pieces over there. Even Azeez Ojulari's a piece. But look, for me, I just want change of scenery. I just want new. I don't want this whole New York Giants way thing anymore. I'm tired of coming up here and reporting on a bad team. Outside of last year, it's been pathetic. My New York Giants are sitting at 5 wins. Your Commanders are sitting at 4 wins. We've been under 6 and 7 wins every time we've done this show for 5 straight years, except 1 year. Like, come on, dog. We need change.
we
need change.
We deserve better. You in the chat deserve better. But big shout out to each and every one of you that are watching us right now across all the platforms. That is Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, right here on YouTube. We appreciate all the love and all the support. Yeah, we got 4 games to go through today. It's going to be fun.
We do. I got to commend the family in the chat for hanging in there, sticking around through these bad seasons, especially this one after the New York Giants, you know, achieved pretty well last season to come back out here and just completely lay an egg. Salute to y'all. I saw Bobby Skinner talking about it on his podcast. They were looking at some of the analytics, and since Daniel Jones went down, they've seen a 30% regression rate on their podcast viewership. So, you know, we understand, man. But big shout out to Talking Giants. I think they do a really good thing over there. And big shout out to y'all for hanging in there with both of these teams. And, you know, shout out to the Dallas Cowboys fans and the Philadelphia Eagles fans who have stuck around here, too, and listen to us bicker about our 2 bad teams. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and talk right about that game. The Lions had traveled to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. All right, y'all. The Lions fell to 11-5, which sounds crazy. The Cowboys improved to 11-5. They beat the Lions 20-19. Cowboys were coming off of back-to-back losses for the first time all year. He won. They are out here grinding. The referees definitely gave him a little bit of help on this one. This was the first home game all year that the Cowboys did not score over 30 points against this Detroit Lions defense. I talked about this being a very even matchup on Thursday's preview show. Talked about the Lions having the advantage in the rushing game. Tony Pollard, 16 carries for 49 yards. David Montgomery had 14 for 65 and a touchdown. The Lions averaged 4.0 yards per carry. The Cowboys only averaged 2.9 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs added to Montgomery's 65-yard total with 43 yards and on 15 carries. Now, the Cowboys, I talked about them having the quarterback advantage. That's exactly what they did. They definitely had the quarterback advantage in this one. Jared Goff was 19 of 34 for 271. Not too bad. 1 touchdown, 2 costly interceptions in this game. Dak Prescott was 26 of 38 for 345, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I also talked about the Cowboys having the wide receiver 1 advantage. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions for 90 yards. He did have that touchdown late in the game that put them down by 1 point to give them the opportunity to go for 2. But CeeDee Lamb, man, CeeDee Lamb, this is probably one of the best games of the year by any wide receiver not named Tyreek Hill. 13 receptions for 227 yards, and he had a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb broke Michael Irvin's record his franchise record of 111 receptions. He's also the first Cowboys player ever to have a receiving touchdown in 8 straight games. So CeeDee Lamb definitely making his mark as an elite wide receiver in the NFL right now. I also talked about the Cowboys having the defensive advantage as well. Michael Parsons did not get a sack in this game. He still needs that half a sack to join that club of getting to 40 sacks in his first few seasons. He did have 6 tackles in this game. The Cowboys had 3 players reach double-digit tackles. Donovan Wilson, Marquise Bell, and Jaron Kearse all had over 10 tackles in this game. Now, we got to talk about the last play a little bit, and then I'll let you dive into what you thought about this matchup. Down 20-13, Goff led the Lions on a 9-play, 75-yard drive that ended in that Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown. The Lions go for a 2-point conversion with 23 seconds remaining in the game. The conversion is good on a completion to an offensive lineman, Taylor Decker. He did check in, supposedly is what they're saying here. But on the broadcast, on the ESPN Ocho broadcast for them Latinos out there, you could hear it over the loudspeaker in the stadium, loud as day, where they said number 70 his name is Bob or Brian Allen, and his crew, they're going to receive a punishment in the form of being demoted out of the playoff rotation. So they're going to lose some money and some reputation on the line here. Looks like the NFL got this one wrong as far as the referees go. But what were your thoughts on that last sequence of plays? I want you to talk about as well, because I remember we talked about this when you texted me, about when they got backed up a couple of yards, committing to going for 2 again. What do you think about that?
I mean, listen, the whole scenario, the way that all went down was just crazy. And then obviously, you know, I think out of respect to the Cowboys fans and you know, the tripping penalty, I see some people in the chat talking about it, the mistake there. Like, if that happens, we don't get to this situation to begin with, right?
We got you, Texas boy. We got you.
Yeah. So, you know, it's one hand washes the other, I guess. It's a weird situation. To me, it doesn't matter, like, who's playing. Like, there has been a problem. It's been a problem for time, right? But this year, it feels like there have been more and more, not necessarily like bad calls or missed calls, but just egregious.
Yeah,
like just
calls.
really, really, really bad. And then obviously, like, in the society that we live in now with social media and 7 streaming TVs at all times, like you can't get away from it. Like it's going to, if you mess up, it's going to get out there and it's going to be all, I mean, listen, they're digging into ESPN Ocho to get you sound bites. Like you're not
I was
going.
like, why is this in Spanish? It was like, Dak Prescott. I'm like, yo, what's going on, dog?
So it's kind of crazy, but I mean, as far as, you know, it's interesting because Awthentik and I were talking about this before we went live about the Alabama play call, right? And the correlation to that and the Giants going for, you know, the 2-point call on that, right? Like everything is easier to look at in hindsight, right? So like if there's no penalties missed, right? You know, and we get there and they make it. Everybody is like, oh, my God, the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell's chewing kneecaps. The Dallas Cowboys are their frauds, you know? But, now.
You know that's going to come out the woodworks. The Cowboys. I'm here for the Cowboys' downfall. I've been seeing that one on Giants Twitter. I'm like, what are y'all talking? No, we got 5 wins. What are y'all talking about?
So for me, it's just like, but to go do it not twice, but 3 times, like,
yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, at that point, listen, I feel where he's coming from, right? Like he had his mind set on going for 2 and winning that game. So I cannot fault him for that. I mean, for me personally, I mean, I probably wouldn't have been upset. It's like, you know, when a guy shoots a 3-pointer and you're like, what are you doing? Yes, right? Yep. Like when it goes in. Like that's how I probably would have been if I was a Detroit Lions fan, because there's a lot on the line there. You know, like you already have your home playoff game because you win your division, right? But like if you lock up that number 2 seed, you possibly have that, you know, you're going to have a second home game, right? And it's just, for me, I think I
think they were still in contention for the number 1 seed too, because the 49ers clinched because the Lions lost.
Yeah, and the Eagles lost too. But yeah, they would have definitely still been in contention going down to next week. But to me, it's just, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's like fate. Like, you're testing fate at that point. Like, bro, like, they're really trying to give you a chance to just bring the kicker on, man, and just kick the extra point. You know, and sometimes I feel like you're doing your team a little bit of a disservice, right? Because it's like football is such a team sport, and it's like give your team a chance to win the game. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just winning it on one play. It's just it's so 50-50. So for me, it's just it's not like egregious to me what he did. I do understand it. Me personally, I probably would have been like, that's like me, like, you know what I'm saying, like catching a break a couple times and then being like, I think it's time that you stop doing what you were doing. You got off the hook twice. Don't
Football
push your luck.
Trying to tell you something there.
Exactly.
You know, like just kick it. I like how you said, allow your team to go out there and try to win the game rather than trying to do it on just one play. And you see it now more than ever. Like modern day NFL is so much more aggressive than the game that we grew up watching when we were kids. Like, that would be a no-brainer field goal kick back in the day. Obviously, the two-point conversion was added on later on, right? But, like, teams are just so aggressive now, fourth down, in their own territory. Think about the fake punt that Dan Campbell ran in this game from, like, his own 37-yard line. You would not see these kind of things in the old-school type of game. And these coaches are just being extremely more aggressive. And the analytics, jumping in and playing that role, I think teams are playing to the analytics a little bit too much. Like, I'll see a team that will be down by 15, right? And instead of kicking the field goal on the first touchdown when they cut the lead in half, they go for the 2 right there, which to me, I know analytics says to do it like that, right? But to me, it makes no sense. It's like if you don't make the 2-point conversion there, you're done. You're cooked. You're not even giving your team the opportunity to go down and get the second touchdown. So I'm not a fan of this. There are times to be aggressive, but I'm just not a fan of this like overly aggressive, type of play calling style that we're seeing out of coaches these days. And to me, this was the main point I wanted to make about this. The better team won this game, and I'm glad that happened. The Dallas Cowboys defense showed up for the majority of this game, and on that last drive, they just allowed Jared Goff to just walk right down the field. I don't know if they changed up some things in the coverage or what, but I just thought that the Dallas Cowboys through and through were the better team throughout this game. And the box score, a lot of the box score says it, although total yards, Detroit did lead in total yards, first downs, and total plays in this game, but Dallas Cowboys led in passing yards. The time of possession was damn near equal. The Cowboys only won the time of possession or lost the time of possession by only 1 minute. So we talked about this game being a very even matchup, and that's exactly what it was. I thought the difference in the game was Dak Prescott over Jared Goff.
And what's interesting is that a lot of the stuff that you and I talked about on Thursday played a major role in the outcome of this game. Like one of the biggest things I talked about, right? Obviously, you talked to CeeDee Lamb. We talked about Tony Pollard. It's as much as I love Tony Pollard, it's week in and week out getting more and more evident about that being a situational problem right now for the Dallas Cowboys. But the two of the big things I talked about was Dallas's third down defense was not doing very well against, and they were going up against the Detroit Lions offense that was performing exceptional on third down. They held the Detroit Lions to 4 of 13 on third down. I thought that was very important. The second thing that I talked about was how good Detroit was in the red zone and how, Dallas was like 21st in the NFL in red zone defense. Dallas held Detroit to 2 for 4 in the red zone. Very, very important. Obviously, when you're talking about a game that comes down to the way that it did, to be able to stop them those 2 times in the red zone when Dallas has been really bad defending in the red zone all year long was huge. And then we talked about Dallas's defense. They're going to have to force turnovers. They forced 2 turnovers in this game, right? And then the first one, they turn around and fumble the ball right after it, right? Which, is a squandering of an opportunity. The second one, they forced that turnover. They turn around, kick that field goal, makes it a 20-13 game. If they don't get that turnover, Detroit could have scored. But even if they do get that turnover and they don't get those 3 points, then if Detroit marches down the field, it's a completely different ending to the game. So, for me, those are the 3 things that when you get a game, when you have 2 teams that are good teams, right? Really good teams, and especially in this division, in this conference, and you're playing against each other, and it's this close. This is where the saying "a game of inches" comes into play, because it's things like this, those plays that you're holding your opponents to field goals instead of touchdowns. When you're stopping a third down, you're making them punt them. When you're forcing a turnover, and not only just forcing a turnover, because we've talked about in times how, sometimes you can force a turnover. You may not get points off that turnover, but you have to look at it as you prevented the other team from scoring points. But when you're in a game like this, and you're two powerhouses in a conference, you have to take advantage of these turnovers and turn them into points. And Dallas did it when it mattered most by kicking that field goal after that second turnover and putting the score to 20-13 and forcing Detroit to have to go all the way down the field, score a touchdown, and be faced with that decision to go for it, either two or kick the extra point and go to overtime.
Yeah, that's definitely facts right there. And I think that they, in hindsight, they probably wish they would have kicked that extra point. Just try to force this one to overtime and allow their team to go out there. I don't think momentum was really on either side of either team in this game outside of the Lions driving down the field on that last drive. But time management, obviously, with Mike McCarthy, that's been a problem. I see a lot of people talking about that in the chat, and I think that's the one knock on Mike McCarthy, for me at least, as a fan of the game. When I watch him, I am a fan of Mike McCarthy. He's a coach that I wanted to bring into the New York Giants when we hired Joe Judge. A lot of people were against that, and I think that those little issues that he has with managing the clock are definitely some of the reasons why some people were weary about it. But in hindsight, I think the Dallas Cowboys probably have the best coach in the division right now, although Brian Dable's coming off of a Coach of the Year.
You know who else probably would have win for two in this game?
Oh, Riverboat Ron?
No. Two.
Oh,
Tudo's going. I mean, they'll call him Tudo for nothing. He's not kicking extra points. He's going for Tudo.
Would be on the defensive side of the ball making a stop. That's where I see Tudo.
I don't know. It kind of looks like fullback to me. Mike Allstott.
He does kind of look like Mike Allstott in that profile.
Big shout out to Tudo for the $19.99 super chat. Says massive salute and respects to Awthentik and The Beard numero uno. From strong side to left side, roadmaps master, gold nugget library, and all die-hard Giants fans in America. Happy New Year and God's blessings to everyone. Spike don't care.
Spike don't care.
Fist pump Italy. Big shout out, Tudo. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for
Happy New
always.
Year, Tudo. Big shout out to Tudo, man. I see the Illas in the building one time. He said that fumble that Lamb had made the game closer than what it should have been, and that's a fact. The one that ended up being a touchback on the goal line. You're looking at 7 extra points for the Dallas Cowboys. That's definitely a fact right there. Big shout out to Illa, man. All Giants fans, y'all need to go subscribe. Go to the Illa. Check out his page. My man be grinding right from work, putting out the videos right from the truck, right from the streets, right from the crib, wherever he's at. Great assessment on the Giants, I swear. Like, one of the more realistic fans in this fan base. And some people going to like that, some people not going to like that. But definitely got to send my shout-outs to the Illa, man, and make sure y'all go over there and subscribe to him. Let's keep it moving, man. And while we're at it, let's talk about these New York Giants who welcome the Rams to MetLife.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
All right, let's talk about it, man. The Rams improved to 9-7. The New York Giants fall to 5-11. The Rams were favored by 6.5 in this one. The New York Giants did cover, ended up losing the game 26-25. The Rams were coming off a 10 days rest. The Rams have now won 5 straight games against the New York Giants, and the last time the Giants beat the Rams at home was all the way back during Eli Manning's trip to the Super Bowl in 2011. The Rams entered Week 17 with a record of 5-1 since their bye week. That only loss came to the Ravens. And the Rams did clinch a playoff berth with the win, and the Seahawks lost to the Steelers. The Rams had scored on the opening possession of their last 5 games. And the New York Giants snapped that streak, okay? Rams end up going for it on a 4th down. We end up making a stop. It was a drop pass. I want to say that was Puka on the right side of the field. Brian Dable challenged the catch. And Brian Dable ends up winning that. I want to say Brian Dable is 8 for 11 as the head coach for the New York Giants in challenges as well. Pretty good record there. So the Giants held them down on the first drive. The offense comes out, and you know exactly what that offense did. They went 3 and out to start the game. You had a big drop by Jalen Hyatt on the deep shot. The Rams had 9 first downs in this game before the New York Giants got their first down. That was when the Giants ended up driving to tie the game 7-7. Dane Belton, man, he shined in this game. Had his first interception in the first half on Matthew Stafford's overthrow. And I talked about this on Bleacher Report a little bit. Dane Belton is absolutely a guy that the New York Giants can bring back and think about him as a building block for this defense. We got some great young pieces on this defense. Cooper Kupp got into the end zone in the first half as well to make the lead 14-7. At the half, it was 14-10. And the Rams, man, they just completely dominated that first half. The score should have been a little bit higher, if you ask me. On third down, the Rams were 0 for 2. I talked about that on the Bleach Report stream. I saw you in the building too, The Beard.
Yeah.
The Giants were 2 of 6. Tyrod had been sacked 3 times. Rams were 2 for 2 in the red zone. And the Rams had won the time of possession in the first half by almost 9 minutes. Wan'Dale Robinson was the leading rusher at the half with 1 carry for 24 yards. Saquon had 3 for 20 yards, averaging 6.7 yards per carry. He had 1 target. And he ended the day with 39 yards on 12 carries. I don't know what the New York Giants are doing, but it was a very inconsistent game from Saquon Barkley. I will say that. A couple of drop passes. He had some issues in the first half with an injury as well that brought him into the blue tent for a little bit, and then he ended up coming back out on the field. The 2 turnovers for the Rams, 1 for New York. A 4th down drop for the Rams, I think, really kept us in that game in the first half as well. Now, the Rams opened up the second half with a huge play to Puka Nacua for 80 yards, run and catch on that one. Kyron Williams ended up putting the ball in the end zone from 2 yards out to put them up 20-10. And I was kind of looking at it like this game's kind of over. Tyrod was in his own territory, backed up near his own end zone, converted a first down to Darren Waller on 3rd down, and then he hit Slayton for the huge 80-yard touchdown. It's the longest touchdown in New York Giants history since Eli threw one to Odell Beckham in 2015. I don't know why. I just got a feeling that could be the Ravens game where Beckham gave the deuces and took that quick slant to the house. I think that one was 80 yards. This was the first Giants game in which both teams had completions of at least 80 yards since 2010. We have not been an explosive play type of team this whole entire year. And, you know, what do you know? The New York Giants go to kick the extra point, and we missed the extra point. And that should have been a red flag for all of us right there, that if this game came down to a game-winning field goal, it was going to be a problem with Green Bay Packers former kicker Mason Crosby out there.
It does not look good, like he's in good shape.
Doesn't look like he's in good shape, man. It was 20-16. The Rams had the lead. Dame Belton got another interception. He had 3 turnovers in this game. First Giants player to do that since 2012. He was filling in for Jason Pinnock, who was hurt in this game. Giants defense got 2 big stops late in the fourth quarter. Beautiful exotic blitz from Wink Martindale on 3rd and 7 to get the sack on Matthew Stafford. And then Gunner O, who let a kick go over his head earlier in the game, I saw all kind of tweets hating on him, takes the punt return 94 yards for the touchdown. It looked like he was bottled up, too, like 10 yards into that return. The Giants had played 132 regular season games and 3 postseason games since their last punt return for a touchdown. That was Dwayne Harris all the way back. I want to say that was sometime in 2015 as well. And the Giants end up going for a 2-point conversion after the penalty, right? Me and the Beard talked about this one a little bit off air, right? Now, Tyrod Taylor misses an easy layup throw. And if you go back and you look at that play, especially from the all-22, Saquon Barkley kind of clears out. He's open. Tyrod kind of like hesitates, kind of wants to run the ball a little bit. And if he does just take like 2 more steps and not throw the ball, Darren Waller's absolutely wide open coming across the middle. So he had 3 options there. You had Saquon, you had Darren Waller, and I think Tyrod Taylor could have just ran the ball in. He kind of gets a little like gun shy there and kind of tries to like push the ball to Saquon. It's a horrible throw on Saquon's behind Saquon by a yard. Now, I tweeted this out, and a lot of people gave me flack for this, but look, I think the effort from Saquon Barkley was a little bit strange. I know it was a bang-bang type of play, very close, awful throw, but he like alligator armed it and didn't even get a hand on the ball. And I'm not saying that that's one that he should catch. It did remind me of the 4th and 1 play last year on Thanksgiving with the Dallas Cowboys, where we ran a little out route to the flats with Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones throws it behind him in a similar fashion, and Saquon tried to at least hit the brakes and fall to the ground and make the catch. He doesn't make the catch. New York Giants fans, I remember y'all was blaming that one on Saquon like he had to make that catch. In this one, I think it's a worse throw, obviously a worse throw than what Daniel Jones did. But at the same time, I saw a running back with his arms not even fully extended. Listen, man, if that's CMC, I'm even on record saying this as early as just a couple of weeks ago, that Saquon Barkley is the type of running back who has the skill set to be a receiving running back. When you go out there and you don't get a hand on the ball and you have your arm pretty much 90 degrees when he didn't get his hand on the ball, I thought he could have made a better attempt on the play. But nonetheless, the New York Giants fail on a 2-point conversion. I got to put a lot of that on. I got to put 99% of it on Tyrod Taylor's throw. It was just a bad throw. And if he doesn't make a bad throw, we're walking into the end zone for the 1-point lead at that point. But it's just another instance of an NFL coach being aggressive when I don't think you need to be aggressive. The Giants were down in this game for most of the game, for all of the game. I don't think we ever led at any point in this game. And maybe Brian Dable looked at that as a reasoning for, well, this is my chance. Well, if you're going to look at it as a chance, after you get the penalty, right, and it moves you up half the distance to the goal, we're now talking about being just 1 yard away from the end zone. I got beef with the play call as well. I really think that you should be able to just quarterback sneak that in, or if you're paying your running back, well, we're paying Saquon Barkley $10 million a year, and y'all know I like to talk about Daniel Jones' contract and the type of plays that a quarterback of his caliber and being paid that much should be making. Well, if you're paying Saquon Barkley $10 million and he can't score from the 1 yard line a couple of inches away from the end zone, I think we have a problem. I really do think we have a problem. So, the Giants were out of timeouts at that point in time, but there was some time left on the clock. And I figured that the way that the defense had been playing, we would get another shot. And Tyrod absolutely got another shot. 3rd and 9, the Giants get a sack on Matthew Stafford. It was Isaiah Simmons who got to him, who's another building block for the Giants.
Love that guy.
Love Isaiah Simmons. He's playing some good ball, and I feel like Wink Martindale is starting to learn how to use him better in this defense. Now, the Rams punt the ball, and Gunnar O makes another good play on a short punt. We get a return all the way to the Rams' 47-yard line. And Darnay Holmes, who has not been sniffing the field on defense, on special teams, gets a holding penalty and backs up the New York Giants. So now, instead of being in Rams territory, now we got to try to get ourselves in the field goal distance from farther out. You're talking about a first down, in Mason Crosby's case, maybe 2 first downs before we could kick this game-winning field goal. And then Saquon Barkley runs a little Texas route, and I've been wondering why the New York Giants haven't ran a Texas route really at all this season. They finally run it. He's got nothing but daylight in front of him. Tries to catch it and go a little bit too fast, takes his eyes off the ball, and drops another pass. He dropped one on the sidelines earlier on in this game. This is one of Saquon's worst games in the pass attack I've seen in a pretty damn long time, maybe ever. And Tyrod Taylor digs us out of another hole. A huge run, gets us all the way down to the Rams' 34-yard line. And I'm like, man, this is about to be on ice. I'm like, listen, I'm waiting to go live on Bleacher Report, right? And Bleacher Report's always like, we set the time for the stream, but they don't want me to go live until the game is absolutely over. So I'm like altering all my notes because, I try to prep them a little bit early. So I'm like, the Rams now have won 5 straight games. I'm going back, kind of changing that. Giants break a 4-game winning streak against the Rams, right? Kick goes up. Man, that thing didn't have a chance as soon as that thing came off his foot, man. Terrible miss. It was a 50-plus yard field goal for Mason Crosby, and just poor offense down the stretch there, man. If Saquon Barkley makes that catch, a couple other plays, I think Tyrod took a sack on that drive too.
Well, for me, it was the 2nd down run.
Oh, my God. I mean, that was a horrible play call. And it was a no gain on that, but still, what are you doing calling? With no timeouts, what are you doing calling a running play in that situation?
That to me was that was the biggest head scratcher. I was like, what? Like, not only is it just like, it feels like a momentum killer too. Like, it just,
because Tyrod was darting in that second half, man.
Nothing made sense about that 2nd down call. I thought that, I think they actually lost. I might be mistaken, but I think they lost 2 yards on that 2nd down run.
Yeah, they might have lost a couple yards, and they asked Brian Dable about it. Jordan Renan was really pressing the issue. And you could tell the way Brian Dable was responding to it that wasn't really his call. He didn't blame it on Kafka, but he would not take ownership to take the blame for that. He just kept saying, I wish we could have that one back.
Yeah, because in a situation like that, where, I mean, you're like you spoke about with Crosby missing the extra point, right? Like, in my mind, I'm like, what are they, like, running the ball to get it in the center of the field for a guy who just missed an extra point to, like, kick a 54-yard field goal? So, like, for me, that was a drive killer. That hurt a lot to watch. I was just like, this feels like I'm watching Ron Rivera and the Commanders right now.
Yeah, that was a really tough one, man. And the Rams end up getting a victory on this one. I talked about a couple of matchups that were extremely concerning for me. And Kyron Williams was absolutely the number one matchup that, I was just like, I don't know how the New York Giants are going to be able to stop this kid. He had 20 rushes for 87 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was averaging 4.4 yards per carry. He's got 3 straight games now over 100 yards. I want to say this was his 4th straight game. Had over 100 yards in 6 of his last 8 games, and 3 of those had over 140 yards rushing. Has a touchdown in 5 of his last 8 games. He's probably the hottest running back in the entire NFL. Talked about this on the preview show. One of 3 players in the NFL right now averaging over 110 yards from scrimmage per game. and he was going up against a bad New York Giants rush defense. And I thought they did a good job of bottling him up early in this game. And the Rams actually did not commit to him too early in this game either. But all in all, you cannot allow a running back like this to score 3 touchdowns. I want to say it was either the second or the third touchdown, the one that he scored from like 20 yards out, the way that he was just like weaseling his way through our defense to score, man, was just absolutely ridiculous. And Matt Stafford, this is the kind of game that should have yielded a win for the New York Giants, if you ask me. Played a good game. He was pretty accurate throughout, but when he was inaccurate, he was missing it. He was missing high on a couple of throws, which caused those 2 interceptions. Passer rating of 85, 317 yards. That's not that good for the Giants defense, 24-34. But I thought that was the kind of game where, you could look at it and possibly get a W out of Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford was interviewed after the game, and he credited Wink Martindale for his poor performance, as far as the turnovers going. But 14 touchdowns in his last 5 games for Matthew Stafford. That's first in the NFL right now. Had multiple passing touchdowns in 5 straight games. The Giants snapped that streak, and he now has over 250 yards passing in 6 of his last 7 games. So he's definitely playing some really good ball here. The Giants were terrible on 3rd down. I know you want to talk about that a little bit. Not that great on 4th down either. And the Rams had just 2 more total yards than the Giants. They had 391. The Giants had the 389. So, a lot of history was on the line in this game, too. Puka needed the 9 receptions to break the NFL single-season record for receptions by a rookie. He only had 5 in this game, but the 5 was very damaging. He had 118 yards on those 5 receptions. But what were your thoughts on this game as well?
Well, I have to start it off by saying shout out to Kyron Williams, former Notre Dame Fighting Irish running back. Also, big shout out to Awthentik for his call on Lamar Jackson from the parlay. I called Kyron Williams on the parlay as being one of the top running backs, and 3 touchdowns.
I don't think he was a top running back, though.
He was up there though. 3 touchdowns, my guy.
I don't think when we say top running back, what do we mean? Are we talking touchdowns? Or
top
talking
3,
yards?
top 3 fantasy points. I'm just saying, he
top
put up
3
some
fantasy points. Yeah, that's a good point there.
There we go.
I'm gonna go look at that. I don't think he was top 3.
He might not have been, but listen,
James
you're not
Conner.
supposed.
I had James Conner in the sit-em section.
You did a beard move on that one.
That's terrible.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of terrible, the New York Giants the New York Giants are like the opposite end of what I spoke about with the Dallas Cowboys in the first game we talked about tonight. 5 of 16 on 3rd down. If you're trying to win a close game like this, and a game against a team as hot as the Rams were, you cannot go 5 of 16 on 5 of 16. That's Commanders numbers, Giants. So you can't do that. Another big problem, and this has been a problem, I feel like, for the New York Giants for as long as I can remember. 0 for 2 in the red zone, okay? And you got to score in the red zone. Like, give me one. Give me one. Yeah. Okay, 0 for 2 with Mason Crosby as your kicker. It's just you can't go 0 for 2 in the red zone. And then and the other thing is, if you're gonna go 0 for 2, you gotta at least do a 1 for 3 on defense. Los Angeles Rams 3 for 3 in the red zone. So that's another thing. And listen, I talked about the Dallas Cowboys forcing the turnovers and what they did with those turnovers. The New York Giants forced 3 turnovers. How many points did the New York Giants get off of those 3 turnovers?
Let me take a guess. I know on the first Dame Belton interception, they got 0 points out of it. I'm going to say they got 7 points.
6 points on
6
turnovers.
They missed a goddamn extra point. Right? Goddamn New York Giants, man.
I almost broke my chair just now. Yes.
Yo, that would have been hilarious. That would have been a chop it up, clip it up moment. It reminds me of one of my homegirls back in the day. She will remain nameless, but like, I remember we were all chilling, like ciphering and whatnot. And she like leaned back in the chair, man, and all I saw was the bottom of them Nikes, bro.
So yeah, for me, like, once again, if you're a team that's an underdog, the New York Giants were underdog in this game, obviously. You got, and you're giving your team an opportunity with 3 turnovers. And we talked about the Giants' defenses. Like, this is kind of in every game the Giants have been in. It's basically been the defense that has allowed them to be in a game to a certain extent.
For sure.
Obviously, Tyrod Taylor, the offense, we're not getting. There's no need to keep beating the dead horse because listen. The guy threw for 300 yards. I mean, you see the way that Tyrod Taylor moves and the way that the offense can produce yards. It's just there's a disconnect between play calling and execution here,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is which leads to 5 of 16 on third down, which leads to 0 for 2 in the red zone, which leads to running the ball on a second down when you're trying to drive down the field with no timeouts,
And
which
the
leads
big mistakes too.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Tyrod that I think he will be a backup quarterback until his career is over, because he has the capability to stretch the field and make those big plays. But with that comes the mistakes, and we've seen that now almost in every game that he's been close in. You look at the Buffalo Bills game before the half, the blunder, to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, which to me is not that big of a mistake, because at least you got a playoff. We've seen, the Philadelphia Eagles do it, and we've seen the Giants do it this year too and get bailed out by a penalty where, like, you literally let the clock run out before the first half, and the penalty actually bailed us out and allowed us to get a second chance to be able to kick a field goal. We saw it with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni a year ago, where they literally like rolled out and just wasted the clock. So for me, it's the mistakes. Being a high-level quarterback in this league and being elite has to do with being able to do those things that Tyrod Taylor did in this game. Only his second 300-yard game of his entire career,
That's
which is
crazy.
ridiculous. But he had over 300 yards, but the mistakes, the fourth down fumble, the 2-point conversion, a couple of misses there on some pivotal downs where he missed Waller on a third down. He missed Waller on that drag route, but I will blame a little bit of the pressure on that one. The pressure got to Tyrod quick. He tried to get rid of the ball fast. It's a game of inches, like you said, and that pass was probably just a couple of inches too far to the sideline for Darren Waller. But these are the reasons why I think the New York Giants absolutely got to go out there and find a quarterback that gives them the potential to be elite. We know that these guys on the roster, whatever the moving parts are, if you want to be a fan of Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, or Mr. Tommy DeVito himself, all of them have flaws, and none of them have the capability to be an elite quarterback, which is more reason why the Giants got to go out here and draft one of these young boys, maybe one of the boys we saw play last night.
Absolutely agree with you. And I will say one more thing on this game and the Giants as a whole is I do think you have to there's going to be some sort of move here offensively, coaching staff wise, for the New York Giants, because there seems to be an issue. And I noticed this a lot with the Commanders over the years. There seems to be an issue with play calling, coaching stubbornness to correlation to players that you have that can make plays, right?
Yeah.
Because too many times, no matter who the quarterback is, Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito, Daniel Jones, too many times shout out to the ticker department, do I do these tickers and I see that the quarterback is the leading rusher? And it's not like Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson leading rushers. Yeah. You're talking about Tyrod Taylor being your leading rusher with 6 carries for 40 yards. Time and time again, I've seen that with this New York Giants team over the last 2 seasons. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. But the same thing is, Saquon Barkley's your running back for a majority of that. Obviously, there's been times where he's been out and hurt. But that's a problem to me, and it wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it was like a Jalen Hurts. I've said it's been a problem with Jalen Hurts too when it's numbers like this, and you have a guy like DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders, and they're not utilizing them. It's okay if it's like your running back is still getting good yards, and your quarterback just has one of those freakish athlete games. That's okay, but when it's like this, that's a problem, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed moving forward for the New York Giants.
Yeah, most definitely. And speaking of the run, shout out to Michael Knight one time in the building. What's going on, bro? He says, question, do you think it's personnel or scheme why we can't stop the run? For me, I think it's more of a personnel issue because, like, we've had this same kind of, like, defensive front interior unit, right? Even when Leonard Williams was here, we struggled to stop the run. That's been an Achilles heel to New York Giants for a long time here. And I think Wink Martindale's doing a better job. A lot of people, they forget that Dexter Lawrence was a very average player before Wink Martindale came here and became the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. So I think that Wink is getting the best out of this personnel. We got to look towards Joe Shane to upgrade, the personnel, especially on this defensive front, and get some more depth pieces over there. What's my man? The dude they signed this year had a pretty decent game on Sunday as well, too. Rochus, he had a pretty decent game. Another interior defensive lineman who had a pretty good game. So I know these dudes are playing for their life right now. You got 2 games left. Now you got 1 game left. But I definitely think it's more of a personnel thing and not being able to get after the quarterback. That's not a staple in the Wink Martindale defense. Like, with all these blitzes and all this stuff, we're normally able to get after the quarterback, and we're struggling to do so. But in this game against the Rams, late they did a decent job, I thought, of getting after the quarterback. But shout out to Michael Knight.
I do think that sometimes it's a little bit of both, though, and I speak on that on experience from Washington because, you have guys like Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, who were at one point considered to be the two best interior defensive linemen in the league, but like they would give up massive running, yardage and plays on the defensive side. And I think that sometimes it's personnel, sometimes it's scheme, and I think it's very similar to what I was just talking about with the offensive side of the ball. The correlation is sometimes coaches can be stubborn and they want players to play within their scheme and they don't use the players the best way that those players can be used. And I think sometimes that sort of stubbornness can lead to faltering, whether it's scheme or personnel or a little bit of both. So
I think that's more the case with y'all. Because when I look at y'all edge rushers were both really good at stopping the run when you had Montez Sweat and Chase Young, right? And your interior guys can stop the run. When you look at the Giants front, Azeez Ojulari is not known for stopping the run. Kayvon Thibodeau, if he has a weakness, that is the weakness. He's just not dominant when it comes to the run. He doesn't step up and stop the run like a true strong edge rusher. He's more of a speed edge type of rusher. And then interior-wise, look, I think Leonard Williams was a little bit overrated. So I think you guys have the better personnel when it comes to stopping the run when y'all had y'all two edges out there in comparison to the Giants, who after that have no depth either. And then you can't ignore the lack of linebacker play that we've had, which I think is why, now the New York Giants rush defense is a little bit better than it was last year because you got Bobby Okereke in there. But when we had like Jalen Smith and Tate Crowder playing middle linebacker, man, it's not a personnel thing for me. It's guys just getting bullied in the trenches, to be honest.
I can totally understand that. Big shout out to Talking Echo for the $4.99 super chat. Says, even with the loss, the offensive performance left me excited. I'm dying to see what a good quarterback can do in this offense. Penix, who's my guy, to Slayton incoming. Listen, who knows what's going to happen because you're going to see a lot of changes between the now and the time when they walk up to the podium. And that's not just for the Giants. That's for every single team in the National Football League. This is going to be one of the more interesting drafts in recent history because of just the way that the chips are falling. You don't know who's going to make a move to go ahead of who. There's so many variables that are going to go into this. But I do love Michael Penix, and I thought that he had an outstanding performance last night. And I've been talking about him being, my guy over Drake May. I just, and that's nothing against Drake May because that's more on me. I haven't watched as much Drake May as I have Michael Penix, but it's going to be interesting. Like I said just earlier to start the show, though, there's going to be a lot more than just a quarterback that you're going to need to take things to the next level here.
I think Slayton is on a one-year deal right now. I do think he's a guy you could bring back, if you brought him back relatively cheap. The Giants need a new weapon, though. And honestly, that's why I said today on my social media that no player's off limits for me because if you don't get a number one wide receiver for this offense and better offensive line play, this offense is going nowhere. And that's secondary to the quarterback that we need on this roster as well. I don't see Michael Penix going top 2, I don't think. Right now, at least, there's a possibility, I guess, if Washington falls in love with them at the second pick. I do think that Michael Penix could be a top 10 pick as well. But I think right now, I think the New York Giants will be better served taking their 2 second-round picks, the second-round pick they got from the Seattle Seahawks in the trade with Leonard Williams, pairing those up to try to trade back into the first round and get 2 first-round picks instead of having those 2 seconds, get 2 first-round picks, try to walk away with a weapon and a quarterback or an offensive lineman and a quarterback, possibly in like the top 20 if you could trade back in, or possibly even try to trade up in this draft if you feel like one of these other teams are going to draft the quarterback that you want. Me, I'm totally okay with leaving this draft with any of these quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, even Jaden Daniels. McCarthy's probably one of my least favorite. Cam Ward declared for the draft as well.
Love
Second, third round. I wouldn't be mad at that either. I don't think, he's going to be a guy you could thrust into the lineup year one, but Daniel Jones is back on this team no matter what. They're not going to cut him. Dead cap hit, $69 million. Daniel Jones is likely to be the starter next year no matter what happens in this draft, but I think we got to be thinking about the future. So Penix to Slayton, maybe. I'd say maybe like a 20% chance.
Without giving me a Beard length answer. Okay. What are your thoughts on Michael Penix? Some people saying Michael Penix isn't even a first round pick, and some people using his age being 23 against him.
The age part is silly. I mean, quarterbacks are, franchise quarterbacks playing well into their 30s now, right? And with all the rules to protect the quarterbacks, these quarterbacks can stay healthy. That is a question mark with Michael Penix. He's blown out the same ACL twice, had the shoulder injury as well. I think it shows a lot of resilience on his part, though, to come back and then be one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football after transferring as well. So I think it does show the kind of guy he is. And his performance last night, I think that bumps him up into the first round, to be honest.
Yeah. Darts.
Yeah,
darts.
Just throwing darts. The touchdown across the middle. Shout out to what's my homie name? Marshall from what's the name of his show? I can't remember the name of the show. He does an awesome Talking Giants type of show where it's very live. But he flipped it and made it look like Michael Penix was right-handed. He mirrored the play, and he was like, if Penix was right-handed, he'd automatically be a top 5 pick right now. It looked even prettier as a right-hander. But some people are saying because he's a left-hander like that, that's a reason why you wouldn't want to draft him high or why he can't be a franchise quarterback. And the left-handed quarterbacks to have success in the NFL, it's super limited. I will say that. There's only about 15 to 20 of them who have been very successful in the league. So, I mean, it's a little weird to say that, because it's does your left hand does it really matter? I'll say this from my experience, and this was only on playing a two-hand touch league. When we went from a right-handed quarterback to our homie Ernie, who was left-handed, the spiral is different and goes the other way. The ball is prettier in the air. But I dropped a lot more passes making the adjustment. At first, I would have a few little bonehead drops until I got accustomed to how to run with him. And I liked running routes from the left side with the left-handed quarterback more. So we'll see how things go for Michael Penix.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's keep it pushing, man. And I guess we'll talk about your game here, man. The 49ers traveled to FedEx Field to take on the Commanders, who are definitely in struggle mode. Let's talk about it. I wanted to bring up this Ryan Dunleavy tweet that he talked about Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones, and I will bring it up. I got to leave y'all with this, and then we'll jump into this game real quick one time. Ryan Dunleavy said, the Giants need to figure out why Tyrod Taylor takes deep shots that Daniel Jones just never takes. That's such a good point right there. The 49ers traveled to FedEx Field. I believe this was the first time since 2019. Ended up beating the Commanders 27-10. 49ers improved to 12-4. Commanders fall to 4-12. The 49ers were favored by 12.5. They covered that 12.5. 49ers also clinched the number 1 seed with that win and the loss for the Lions and for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Commanders, the Beard's not going to like this, have now lost 7 straight games, 8 of their last 9. 12 of their last 14. Y'all sounding like the Cleveland Browns from the 1990s one time. The Commanders now own the 2nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The score was 13-10 at the half. Kind of looked like y'all was in it. Commanders scored 10 points in the second quarter, but were shut out in the second half. Sam Howell ended up getting the start in place of the injured Jacoby Brissett, and it was not a good day for your boy. Didn't throw the ball 30 times, but he was 17-28 for 169 yards. What happened to the Sam Howell that we saw in the beginning of the year? He's not even putting up the yards. I don't understand what's going on. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He had the one that I called for every game and another one. QBR of 21.7. He now has 20 touchdowns on the year, 19 interceptions. His QBR is 23rd in the NFL right now. He was only sacked 1 time in this game. Washington has allowed just 1 sack for the 3rd consecutive game, which I guess that's some progress right there. You can look at that as some progress. The Commanders' offense was just bad in this game. Brian Robinson was back from his injury. Just 9 carries for 44 yards, averaging 4.9 yards per carry. He did eclipse 1,000 scrimmage yards on the season, which made me feel some kind of way about Saquon because Brian Robinson has missed a bunch of games as well. No pass catcher had over 4 receptions in this game for the Commanders. McLaurin was the only one to get over 4 targets. He led the Commanders with 4 receptions for 61 yards and 1 touchdown. McLaurin is now the 6th player in NFL history to record at least 900 receiving yards in each of his first 5 seasons, joining Mike Evans, A.J. Green, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and DK Metcalf. That is some really, really good company. Jahan Dotson, on the other hand, first-round draft pick, just one target in the game. He was out on the field for 85% of the snaps. He was just out there, bro. I don't know what he was doing.
I mean, listen, there's a few things I'm going to get, there's only a little bit more time left for you guys to do this. So, the Jahan Dotson, prediction and the Dallas Cowboys prediction, listen, I deserve it for those two.
Jahan was out there playing with the grass, dog. He was just like picking up little blades of grass throwing him because he wasn't getting the ball.
He's one of the big, because I was on Twitter, all the fantasy football championship stuff, and the end of this season, people are always like, there's things that you kind of look back on, like the biggest disappointments in fantasy football, and Jahan Dotson is one of them. And that's big correlation time to real life football too, because I mean, there was high hopes. I mean, really high hopes in people like me, but I mean, nobody thought it was going to be like this. And kudos to Terry McLaurin too, because listen, this guy has done that, and he has had no quarterback throwing to him. Some of those other guys have had Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Pro Bowl quarterbacks, MVPs throwing to him. Terry McLaurin has had Sam Howell, Carson Wentz 3.0, Ryan Fitzpatrick for a game.
Yep.
Kyle Allen. Jesus,
Dwayne
we
Haskins.
could go. Mark Sanchez, Josh Johnson, Kuzil eating Gilbert Grape. I mean, my God.
What's my man? Case Keenum. Case Keenum. Can't forget Case Keenum.
I mean, we could go on, but
it's been bad. It's been bad. The 49ers definitely dominated y'all in just about every category. They more than doubled y'all up in first downs, 28-12. Total yards was 408 to 225. They almost tripled the Commanders in rushing, 184 to 62. They won the turnover battle 2-0, and they dominated time of possession 38 minutes, 13 seconds to 21 minutes and 47 seconds. I talked about this being like a Brock Purdy type of like bounce back type of game, and this was a clean one for him. Never really tested,
very clean.
22 of 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And CMC ended up dealing with an injury in this game, but he still had 14 rushes for 64 yards. Elijah Mitchell had 80 yards on 17 carries, 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel, I love this role that he plays because when he needs to turn it up, he can. And besides that, he'll have these games that are just very even keel. 5 receptions, 37 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 rushes, 35 yards. Let Brandon Ayuk do his thing, 7 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown. Ben Ballew, I talked to him the other day on Xbox. Last night, I think it was. He did not like the roadmap to victory from the last show. Just wanted to throw that out to you. But what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, apparently that didn't even work. Okay,
prayers.
They must not have been praying.
The thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, it did not work out well for Washington. Listen, I will tell you this though. I wonder how much missing Brian Robinson affected Sam Howell, because you clearly saw a completely different sort of Sam Howell and offense early on in this game when Brian Robinson was getting work and putting in work. It's just, I don't understand what happens. It's like, it looks so good, and then it's just like, let's not do it anymore. And I'm like, well, why? Like, it doesn't make sense. Make it make sense.
What pass play do I call next?
There's another thing, too. I want to know who the hell Eric Bieniemy is talking to. Because every time I see him and he's like this, he's like with his pen and his thing, and he's talking to somebody. But I don't know who are you talking to? It's not God, because it's not. I just don't understand what's going on. The 2 interceptions were critical, obviously. The first one in the red zone. It was just, he was a little bit under pressure, threw it behind Terry McLaurin. It was the route was usually jumped when you throw that ball. If you throw that ball behind the receiver, it's going to be jumped 9 out of 10 times. So the second one, he got hit a little bit, but it was still late. I think that's one of the things that has been very inconsistent with Sam Howell this year is he has this Taylor Heineke tendency to be a little bit late. Look at you comparing him to Taylor Heineke. Hey, listen, man,
wouldn't have did that 5-6 weeks ago.
Absolutely not. But I am a realistic person. I try to approach this as such. You talked about the first downs. That is just an obscene number. 28-12. Washington on third down. Horrible. 3 for 9 on third down.
Horrid bull. I like
Yeah.
horrid bull.
It's just so bad. It was 2 bad words in one.
Exactly.
I want Washington to do this 39 for 184. That's what I want. I want that. And I think we forgot. A lot of people forgot how good Mitchell is because CMC has come over there and Mitchell's kind of been hurt for large portions over the last couple of seasons. But he's a really good running back. The San Francisco 49ers are just loaded. There's no other way to say it. They're just loaded. Red zone. I mean, this game, shout out to the Washington Commanders defense because this game could have been as bad as I thought it was going to be and predicted it was going to be because they had 6. It felt like San Francisco was just driving down the field the entire game. They had 6 red zone attempts. 6. They were 3 for 6.
3 for 6. All right.
3 for 6 in the red zone. Listen, the other thing too is one of the things that was really good about Sam Howell early on in the year, which because this is what I'm trying to look at with Sam Howell. You want to evaluate and more so than just he's been good, he's been bad, right? Yeah, I mean we all know that, right? But early on in the season, you saw him make mistakes and bounce back really well, right? Yeah. Like, and now I think, it kind of goes back to the thing we talked about a little bit. Like, he's broken. Like, there's just something, it's broken, right? And in this game, before that first interception, right? Sam Howell was 13 of 19 for 154 yards and 1 touchdown. Before that first interception. And then the play calling changed. His demeanor changed. The offensive line kind of let up. The pressure started happening, and it just went downhill for there. The entire Washington Commanders had 84 yards in the second half.
That's garbage.
And
that's
64 yards of that came on one drive, and that was the turnover drive. So it was just – it's weird. Like, it sometimes, like, these are the ones that really are tough because – It's sometimes it's very easy to pinpoint what went wrong in a game, right? When it's a game of inches. Or it's easy to pinpoint when you just get mollywopped. But when you have a game like this where, like, you see the defense making some big stops against San Francisco. Yeah. But, and then you see Sam Howell go 13 of 19, 154 yards, 1 touchdown. The back shoulder throw to Terry McLaurin for the touchdown. Nice one. You see those sort of things. And then it just, like... And this has been the case for multiple games this season where you just see it just comes crashing down. Like, how do you go from that to 84 yards in the second half? And Sam Howell, so he was 17 of 28 for 169. So after that first interception, he was 4 for 9 for 15 yards and 1 interception.
Damn.
That's crazy to think about, right?
That's crazy. That's real crazy.
So it's a lot of that has to do with just play calling,
half possessions too. Like that's an alarming number.
It's situational things. Just I don't have answers for. And once again, we're here to tell you guys that it's all going to be blown up here eventually. Black Monday's right around the corner, so we'll see how things move forward. And we're going to have a new coaching staff, a new front office, and what looks like to be a new quarterback, I'd imagine so. And like I said,
what do you do with the second pick right now? You making the pick today? What position do you draft?
Who goes number 1?
Caleb Williams.
I'm trading back.
You gonna trade back?
I'm trading back because I'm that high on Michael Penix, and from what it seems like, there's not a lot of people out here that are that high on Michael Penix. I think I trade
after that performance yesterday. There will be. For
sure. I think I trade because think about it this: if you're a general manager, right, and you're getting basically this is all fresh slate. What do you know what you could probably get for that second pick, bro?
Yeah, but then if you trade back too far, you might miss out on the quarterback that you want.
That's what I mean.
The Jets need a quarterback. The Falcons need a quarterback. They're picking 8 and 9 right now. The Raiders need a quarterback. They're picking 11.
That's some good. I'm not mad at drafting
You're right. The
that.
Giants obviously need a quarterback.
Yeah.
New England needs a quarterback. So yeah, you might miss out. That's the thing about trading back.
Yeah, it's tough, but I would think about that. If let's say Chicago decides to stay with Justin Fields and select, let's say, Marvin Harrison, or select the offensive tackle from Penn State, and then they leave Caleb Williams to us, I mean you have to take him, right?
Yeah, in that situation, you would have to take him. But I think it would be smarter for the Bears if they're not going to go quarterback.
To trade.
Don't use the first pick. Yeah, trade the ransom for it. You can get more picks for next year for Justin Fields in the offense. Get your weapon at, what are they picking, 10 now, I think? Let me see.
And that's the other thing, too, is like, think about how much we gave up for RG3 when we traded up.
Yeah, it was like the 2 first and y'all active first. So it was 3 first and then a third, I think, on top of that. Maybe.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So
and it did change the trajectory of the franchise for a little bit until, they ran him into the dirt. But that was a good time in D.C. I ain't going to lie. What was that, 2012?
To me, like, that's why, like, I will never understand the hate that RG3 gets. Like, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I remember what it was like being a Commanders fan before RG3.
I don't hear a lot of people hating on RG3 for his performance out here, but they don't like him now for his analyst stuff.
Yeah, they don't. There's a lot of people here, a lot of people in the Washington fan base that like basically disowned RG3. They didn't like the way that they thought he was a very me first guy and all this and that.
Which he might have been. Yeah.
And people were all upset like that he wanted to like rush back to play and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, I will hold on to what he gave me. He gave us a NFC East championship. That game that I got to go to and see in person, beating Dallas that last week of the season to win that division, and like him and Alfred Morris, and just the excitement that was brought back to DC because of RG3 is just something that you don't get all the time. And I mean, we'll probably have something
while it was active. Like they really that 2012 season, they loved him out here.
Yeah,
he could do no wrong, and then it just came crashing down in the playoffs. I remember with the knee brace and the injury and all that, and just then he came back and he tore his ankle on the inside. Like I remember he was scrambling to the right and his ankle broke to the inside. I don't think I've ever seen that
the
on a
sideline, and he made the throw too.
Yeah, and then his ankle just flopped on him. It's pretty interesting. But I was looking at the second half possessions, and y'all had a decent amount of possessions.
4?
Y'all had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possessions. The last one being, a little bit shorter, but it was a turnover on downs after 4 plays. Punt, interception, punt, turnover on downs. Yeah, hard to win like that, man.
No, can't. And think about it. The first interception was the one that drive was a beautiful drive too. I mean, Howell was hitting. He hit a nice one. He had like four plays in a row of like over 13 yards. I think Gibson had a couple of really big plays on that drive, and it's like you go down there and then you turn the ball over on that interception, and that's 20 yards, an entire half of football outside of that drive. There's no answer for that.
Yeah, it was 10 plays, 64 yards, and you were down by 10 at that point.
Yeah.
Both punts, 3 and out, and then a 4 and out turnover on downs. Like that's why the numbers were so small, because you're not sustaining the drives at all outside of that one drive, like you said.
Yeah, and think about those numbers for Sam Howell. Like, think about that. 13 and 19, 154 and 1 touchdown. Like, you're like, okay, that's a pretty good line, right? Going into the third quarter.
Yeah.
And then to finish, when you look at it, the finished product, and you're like 17 of 28, 1 touchdown, two interceptions, like you're like, oh, what a horrible game. And I mean,
second half adjustments by the San Francisco 49ers defense too. You got to credit them, man. That 2, 3 and outs and a 4 and out, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Big shout out to Cod001 for the $4.99 super chat. Says The Beard, are the Commanders laying down and letting the Cowboys get this division without any resistance? I don't think that they're doing it on purpose, but I'm sure that if the Cowboys, listen, I will tell y'all this right now, because you know me. I'm going to beat Dallas. I don't care if the second pick is on the line. I'm gonna beat Dallas. That's me, right?
That's how you feeling?
That's how I feel always. Listen, I will want to win the game. If we lose, it's like the most beautiful thing in the world,
Can't
right?
get jiggy with that.
To want to win the game.
Not the last week though.
Listen.
It's Dallas. I get it. I know
Exactly.
the rivalry is crazy out here, but
To want to win the game, right, and be excited to win, and then lose and still have the number 2 pick, like that's awesome. That's a beautiful thing. Why would I want to ruin that by wanting to lose and then get the number 2
me a
pick?
little bit, because if y'all win, y'all probably won't get the number 2 pick.
Yeah, well, we beat Dallas, and we get a number 4 pick.
I wonder how the Giants fans feel out there if we were sitting at the number 2 pick right now, going into week 18 to play the Philadelphia Eagles like we are.
Ooh.
Would you be rooting for a win?
I bet
that.
You'd find a 50-50 split, you think?
I mean, I think it'd be 90%, man. Most Giants fans can't stand the whole tank vibe, but like week 18, I don't want that win. Not where we at right now. 4 wins, 5 wins, bro. I don't care about beating the Eagles. Is not going to make me feel good going into the season. To watch them then go into the playoffs, that means nothing to me.
Listen, I understand that, but I cannot actively want my team to lose.
Nah, I hear you. It's not, you got to low key do it. You can't like be like, man, I want them to lose.
Yeah,
but you
exactly.
Pick them to lose. You know what I'm saying? And when the game's going along, when they score a touchdown,
It's not like I'm gonna sit here and be like, Washington roadmap to victory to beat the Dallas Cowboys. This is how it's gonna happen. I'm picking Washington. No, I'm not picking Washington. I think you guys are good. Wait, if they win and the Eagles win, does Dallas win the division?
Yes, I believe so.
I thought are Eagles in first place right now, or Dallas in first place?
I think Dallas is in first place right now. Let me see.
They really dropped the bag like that on Arizona.
Yeah, Cowboys are in first place right now.
Oh, so yeah, Eagles. Did you see the tweet with I think it was JP Finley?
No,
like rumors are swirling around that there's going to be another big move in the NFC East.
It was Josina Anderson. Yeah, I saw
outside of Washington.
They ruled y'all out
because that's already known thing. So it's like it's either the Giants or the Eagles, basically.
Yeah, I mean I don't even look at that as a big move with y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody already knows that.
The necessary evils right now at this point. You got to get that done. But yeah, Josina Anderson was the one who reported that first, like a few days ago. She said, like something swirling in the NFC East that I mean, I think it could be Nick Sirianni. They're struggling, man. That offense is bad. That offense is really bad. Let me see. Marquez Hardison says that you need to talk to other Washington content creators, Awthentik and The Beard. They want the Commanders to lose out. They want the highest draft pick possible. Yeah, and I think most content creators think like that because the Giants base is like that as well. Like most of the Giants content creators, they're not going to sit here and tell you like, hey, we're rooting for the tank, but they really rooting for the tank. They're meaningless games here. They don't want W's down the stretch. I think The Beard is just, pride factor, Dallas Cowboys type thing. A lot of people that are in New York, too, they're like, oh, I want this win against the Eagles. I've never looked at the Eagles' rivalry against New York like that seriously, especially because in the last decade, they've owned the New York Giants. It's not even a rivalry. So for me, it's like I can't even look at these with a serious kind of an eye. Like I look at the Dallas Cowboys, I look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They're miles ahead of where the New York Giants are. And for us to get back to where we need to be, it almost has nothing to do with the Cowboys or the Eagles at this point.
Yeah, it's very similar here because Dallas has taken care of us for years upon years now. It feels like, but I mean, it would be for me, it's a little bit. It'd be pretty awesome, Beat Dallas, they don't win the division. I get to come here, talk a little smack. We get a W. I get to watch 90% of Washington Twitter cry because we don't have the number 2 pick anymore. That's a little fun for me.
It's bad. It's bad. You'll look back at that and be upset. I'm telling you, you'll look back at that and be like, damn, man, we could have had our quarterback right there. Instead, we went out there and tried to beat Dallas. I see David B. He also says, we like seeing Philly lose, and I'm just like, if it ain't against us, me, I've always been like that. And like a lot of the Giants fans, especially on Twitter, they give me a lot of flack for that. They're just like, you root for Jalen Hurts and stuff. I'm like, nah, it's like, dog, he's playing well. What you want me to sit up here and lie? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like some Giants fans would rather lie to themselves than like just be honest about it. Like, Philly been playing all right. They're on this terrible losing streak now, but for the most part, we're not in their class. So it's like, I don't care if they win. Even during the Super Bowl, like if Jalen Hurts and the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl, I wouldn't have felt no way about it. It don't bother me.
And that's one thing too, is like as much flack as you guys give me here for my Dallas takes, which I feel I have turned the corner and been very, very well with everything.
You've been forced. You've been forced to turn the corner and pull your car to the side and park that thing on the side of the road. Have some
But
deep thought.
I don't sit here and watch the Dallas games and hope that they lose. No, it's no fun in that.
I don't know if I believe you on that.
You believe me, man. I
don't
picked
know if
Dallas.
I believe you on that.
Picked Dallas. I've picked Dallas to win, man. You know, like
Yeah, they called you out on that last week when you were like, "Yeah, I got all the games right." I remember that.
I've only missed 2 Dallas games all year.
I think now at this point though, it's like you can't keep picking them wrong. So it's like got to pick the Cowboys here, man. I think it took everything in your power to not pick the Lions on Thursday's preview show.
I thought about it. I did. But I was like, at home, I was like, nah. And I won money because I picked Dallas to win.
Smart
you know
move,
what I'm saying?
Yo. Smart move.
Mark,
move, man.
Marcus said the beard is always stutters when he's fibbing.
Yeah, that's facts, bro. Yo, big shout out to Marquez in the building one time, man. So we done talking about this game?
Yeah, we don't have
good?
to talk about the roadmap. Shout out Ben Bayou because he didn't like
Just the
the
roadmap, right?
My God.
That roadmap away. No more. Are we even going to get a roadmap for Week 17 against the Cowboys?
We'll put a poll up. Does
We'll put a poll up.
the Cowboys fans want a roadmap for Washington? No, we're not gonna do a roadmap. No.
I want to see a roadmap. I definitely want to see a roadmap. Yeah.
Big shout
Call
out
him
to Guy. Big shout out to Guy 001 with a $4.99 super chat. You picked Dallas, all right. You picked them to win 8 games.
Sure did. You sure did. I guarantee you when we pick next year, there's no way he's going to be like Dallas 14-3. I promise you he's never going to do that again, y'all. They're pushing for 12 straight wins again for 3 straight seasons here, man. That's impressive, man. That's impressive.
Man. That was a good one,
Kai.
Kai.
I appreciate you paying to call him out on that. It goes a long way in supporting Awthentik and The Beard, bro. Much love to you for that, fam. All right, let's get off into this last game. This was probably the biggest shocker of the entire weekend here. The Cardinals ended up upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, man. The Cardinals improve to 4-12. That shit sounds crazy. They beat the Eagles, who are now 11-5. They beat them 35-31. Eagles are on a 4-game losing streak here. The Cardinals absolutely dominated on offense in this game. 32 first downs to 17. I don't know how that happened. They had 14 rushing first downs to the Eagles' 5. Total yards 449 to 275. They outrushed the Eagles 221-91. The Cardinals had 6 red zone trips in this game. They were 4 for 6 in the red zone. And the number one stat of the day, I'm going to fade the music out for this one because I have been in countless arguments on Twitter about this particular way of how you beat the Philadelphia Eagles. With a bunch of content creators, a bunch of Giants fans who tell me, nah, you got to throw the ball on them. You got to get big explosive plays. You have to keep Jalen Hurts on the sidelines. Time of possession was dominated 40 minutes to 20 minutes in this game in favor of the Cardinals. And even with Sidney Brown having that 99-yard interception return for the Philadelphia Eagles, it still was not enough. I absolutely loved, did I say I loved the Cardinals committing to the running game? Okay, the Philadelphia Eagles, we know that this year they have been a better run defense than they have been a pass defense. They got Michael Carter, former New York Jet, in the mix on this one. 7 carries for 61 yards, and he had a receiving touchdown. James Conner, who I did have him in my sit-em section, I was definitely wrong on that one. That man had 26 carries for 128 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground. and he had a receiving touchdown on a beautiful one-handed catch. Julio Jones, 2 first-half touchdowns in this game. Those were his only 2 receptions of the day. It was 21-6 at the half in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. And, man, look, like, I think that when it comes to the quarterback position, we have to stop trying to trick ourselves. You remember when I did my top 10? I put quarterbacks in there that I thought belonged in that top 10, right? I even had Kirk Cousins on the outside looking in as an honorable mention, but I put guys like Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, people who have proven year in and year out that they belong to be in that top 10. There were people early on in this year who have pretty much wrote off Kyler Murray. Like, this dude is just no good. Ignoring his rookie season, ignoring his sophomore season where he rushed for like 800 yards and put up big numbers in the passing attack as well. Kyler's a dog, bro.
Yeah.
That game against the Philadelphia Eagles proved that he's a dog. 232 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception. His QBR was 84.4 out of 100. The throw to James Conner on the left side, the one-handed catch. Last week, I tweeted out a throw from Kyler Murray where he just dropped it right in the bucket, almost in the same exact spot. His touch throw is just, he's so good at the touch passing. I love what I'm seeing from Kyler Murray in that regard. And then he came right back on the 2-point conversion with a similar throw, a little lollipop. Reminds me of Russell Wilson, man, early on. Those like throws that got high trajectory and just land right in the bucket. That 4th down throw to tie it at 28-28, amazing throw. And the Cardinals, I liked how they were aggressive at the end of this game. Scored the touchdown, went for the 2 to tie it up, and then went and kicked the onside kick with 5 minutes left in this game, in a tie game. And their aggressiveness, in return, the Philadelphia Eagles got extremely conservative down the stretch there. They got in the field goal range with the game tied up 28-28. 2 Jalen Hurts runs to the right side, and then a screen play to Kenneth Gainwell on 3rd and 20, and they settle for a field goal to go up 31-28 with just 2 minutes, 38 seconds left in this game. And Kyler Murray, you shouldn't have did that to him.
Nope.
Went out there, handled biz, hit Rondale Moore for a nice big game, got Greg Dortch on the 2 big gainers.
Shout out Greg Dortch.
Greg Dortch balled out late in this game.
No, I love
and then he hit
Dortch.
James Conner for the game-winning run with 32 seconds left on the clock. And I thought they might have left a little bit of too much time left for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts ends up driving the Eagles down the field, got him past midfield, had to take a Hail Mary shot there at the end of the game. Ball gets intercepted. Cardinals go on to win this game 35-31. Now, when the Dallas Cowboys had lost to the Arizona Cardinals early on in this year, my homie Lord Brunson, shout out to the homie, man. I love Lord Brunson's content. He's a content creator that just keeps it funky, keeps it real. Big shout out to him. But after that game, he was tweeting out. He was kind of feeling himself. Philadelphia Eagles playing some really good football. They had actually just lost to the Jets, right? And he said, you know, in return to a Cowboys fan, like, but y'all lost to the Arizona Cardinals. Y'all not in our class. And I came in, I had the little Obama gift, like, it's like, but y'all lost to the Jets. They're not a good team either. Somebody went back and dig that tweet up and said, not only did you lose to the Jets, but now you've lost to the Cardinals as well. I know Brunson is not feeling good this week. Definitely watching the Arizona Cardinals enjoy their victory Monday and their victory week. Jalen Hurts was not the problem in this game, and I said this on our preview show. I said, if Jalen Hurts goes out here and he balls out, they're going to say it's the weapons. If they go out here and Jalen Hurts balls out and they lose this game, they're going to blame Jalen Hurts. So regardless of what happens, Jalen Hurts is probably going to get the blame. He was 18 of 23 in this game, 167 yards, not that great, but 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, QBR of 77.4. The Eagles, just 66 yards from the Eagles running backs, okay? If you take away James Conner's 128 yards rushing, the Cardinals still outrushed the Eagles in this game, which is absolutely pathetic. And A.J. Brown, a guy who I thought was going to have, I've been waiting for him to have this bounce-back game. Weeks going by. We got 4 losses now. 4 receptions for 53 yards on 5 targets. Devonta Smith didn't do much to help him either. 3
He in a
receptions
walking
for
boot
30.
now, too.
Not a good look for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward here. Going into the playoffs without any momentum. They had their first matchup against the New York Giants. Didn't look that great in that matchup either. They ended up winning the game. Now they got one more shot to go out here and try to maybe catch a little bit of fire going into the playoffs, in which what looks like they're going to be the 5th seed, which is crazy that they're going to be the 5th seed when all said and done here. But What were your thoughts on this game here, man, and this upset victory from the Cardinals?
I mean, a lot of the stuff I have here, you touched on too, and so I mean, the double of the time of possession is crazy in itself, right? But the amount of plays is wow.
It's crazy. Yeah.
72 plays from Arizona, 47 from Philadelphia.
That's exactly how y'all beat them last year. Time of possession, y'all, the plays were I think it was like 70 to like 36 when y'all played them. Time of possession, a few turnovers. That's how you beat them.
Yeah, and the thing that's crazy is that the Hurts interception was on the last play of the game.
Right.
It wasn't like Jalen Hurts, like AJ Brown didn't even want to talk after the game.
That's 2 games in a row now that he's declined to talk to the media.
You hate to see it. You do, because this is a good team, but man, and we've been pointing out the little things, the DB coach, Gardner Johnson, and like it wasn't even necessarily
offensive philosophy,
the motions,
two coordinators, the motion, pre-snap motion being at the bottom of the league. Not committing to the run.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the thing to bring it all the way back to the beginning, right? When you say we're just a quarterback away, right? I mean, the Eagles were just think about how difficult it is.
Going with this one.
Just see how difficult it is to just let's run it back. There is no running it back in the NFL anymore.
I mean, but here's the thing, though. They are sitting on what? 11
wins? 11 wins for sure. But I mean,
I
don't
know if we could use that same.
And I had them finishing what? 11-6 was my prediction for the Philadelphia Eagles. And they've lost games that I didn't think that they were going to lose, which is the weird thing, right? But I don't know. It's tough because now that when you see them lose, right? You look at it and you're like, damn, like they shouldn't be losing. But they have flaws.
This one especially. Yeah.
They have flaws, man. And if you
but
put
you know what? Just not to interrupt you, right? What you talk about running it back, though, they lost a lot of pieces.
They did. That's what I'm saying. It's so difficult to run it back. It really is. And to be, because it's almost impossible to just like verbatim run it back, right? Because you're going to this age of football with free agencies and people being cut and things like that. It's so difficult.
Yeah, but you look at the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, they're running it back actively with improvements.
We thought that was going to be the case with Philadelphia Eagles. They made some additions, did they not?
They were losing. Dude, they lost Hargrave, who was one of their best positions.
Who did they add? They added somebody in the middle of the
draft,
season.
They got Jalen Carter, and then they added, like, was it Shaq Leonard?
I think it was, wasn't it? There's a couple of those that they added before. There was one before that where you're just kind of like, when they added DeAndre Swift, you're like, oh man, that's a little bit of an upgrade over Miles Sanders.
The Eagles, man, I just think it's very different. That they couldn't run it back. That's the problem. The Dallas Cowboys ran it back and added Stephon Gilmore and added Brandon Cooks. You know what I'm saying?
They lost Ezekiel Elliott, though.
Is that really a loss? They said they put.
I mean, it looks like a loss right now with the way the run game is, right?
They had an opportunity to re-sign Ezekiel Elliott after they cut him in free agency. They didn't want him. So that's just a mistake. That they didn't want to run it back with Zeke. But you look at the San Francisco 49ers, bro. They're running it back with the same exact squad, with Chase Young added to it, with Hargrave added to it. Like,
there's always an exception to the rule. There's always an anomaly. But they can't do that for forever.
They can't. But the Philadelphia Eagles are coming off 1 year. It's just 1 year.
I think that maybe that's
lost some of these players.
The biggest like shock is like they just felt like they felt so much better last year than this year, even though they have 11 wins, right? They just don't. And look, that is a great point there about the schedule. Great point, because it's not just the Eagles. Bro. It's not just the Eagles. It affected us. It affected Giants fans because we were all like,
yeah, but here's the difference. Those are bad teams. It didn't affect the Dallas Cowboys.
No, that's why I didn't say it affected Dallas Cowboys. But
it didn't
the
affect
fan
the Dallas
base,
Cowboys.
It affected me. I looked at the Dallas Cowboys and didn't think about the Dallas Cowboys like I should have in comparison to the Commanders and the Giants. But we thought we were a quarterback away. We thought Sam Howell's going to come in here. All we need you to do is just be better than Taylor Heineke. We're going to go to the playoffs. But
And he wasn't better than Taylor Heineke.
I will die on that hill. I don't care what anybody says. Sam Howell's better than Taylor Heineke.
The numbers have proven it.
I don't care about the damn numbers.
Worse,
I don't care about it. No way.
Bro.
No, I will not. I will die on that hill.
Is he leading in interceptions now?
Probably.
God damn, bro. Taylor Heineke's 2-1, man.
No, not anymore. He played a horrible game this last Sunday.
No, I'm talking about for y'all.
Oh yeah,
His last season.
Yeah, gets the cupcake
schedule.
schedule.
Oh, cupcake schedule. This dude. See, this the one that I'm like, when we talk about keeping it realistic, not being optimistic or pessimistic, this one he dodging them bullets right here. The Philadelphia Eagles were a different circumstance. They're just a different circumstance. They lost both the coordinators and they lost big players. You can't forget about Miles Sanders, too. DeAndre Swift is a great replacement, but they lost Miles Sanders because of free agency, and they didn't want to pay him. So they're the team that suffered the most from losing their roster. They couldn't run it back. No. Dallas Cowboys ran it back. New York Giants absolutely ran it back. They're like, Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton, Daniel Jones, give them all the money. Let's go. Bring back Sterling Shepard. Yep, we got to do that. But with the Philadelphia Eagles, bro, these were the question marks that honestly a lot of fans had that I kind of ignored, and I thought that they would be able to overcome this because of Jalen Hurts at quarterback, because of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith at the wide receiver position. But they're lacking. They're lacking over there. The offensive line is still great, but why they're not committing to the run, especially when you got leads in games the way that they had in this one, 21-6, 21-7 at the half, not committing to the run. I thought DeAndre Swift could have a big game against this Cardinals defense that was the worst rush defense in the league in the last 3 games. They could not run the damn ball, and I don't understand this. Like, we've been talking about this for weeks now, our teams included. You go up against these teams that give you an alley-oop that say, hey, this is how you game plan against us. It's right here. Run the ball. And then they don't run the ball. I don't understand it. I really don't understand how the Cardinals outrushed the Philadelphia Eagles in this game by so much. I can't pronounce this name. I'm going to.
Do you want me to try?
You try first.
At first, I thought it might have been backwards, but it doesn't look like it's backwards either. So I'm going to go Safafahaf Fuig.
I think you added an extra A maybe. Safafaf?
Safafa?
You gotta let us know how to pronounce that. I haven't seen you in the building, man, but big shout out to you. That's a great point. That's a great point right there. And like it was on the tip of my tongue, and I looked at the chat, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I just let the homie say it one time. So big shout out to you because that has a lot to do with it. The schedule last year was absolute garbage, and the Dallas Cowboys being the only team in the NFC East that like it didn't matter, it didn't bother them outside of the Cardinals game. I gotta throw that shot.
Yeah.
Anything else you saw in this game?
Listen. I said that what was the phrase that I used here? Fine tune and ramp up. They fine tuned their way to 21-6 instead of ramping up. They decided they were going to let the teenage kid drive and they were going to take a nap in the shotgun. And look what happened.
Yeah. Well, woke up, kid crashing the car. Not a good look. I don't know if you've seen that one viral video where the dude teaching his son how to drive and he just hit the gas and slammed right into some other cars. It's so bad.
I tell Josie about how like different it was for us, like coming up, like learning how to drive, right? Like, I mean, me and you might be a little bit different, but my parents didn't take me anywhere to teach me how to drive.
Oh yeah,
we learned how to drive from stealing our parents' cars and driving around in those cars, and then like we didn't go to. There was no. First of all, there's no driver's ed in school for us, right?
Oh,
and then number two, we didn't go. Like, we went to the W Fan building, right? And then they said.
It was a WFAN building. Damn. Wow, that's funny.
You go into everybody that you knew went to this driving class, and they said, "Hey, so raise your hand if you know how to drive." And then like you raise your hand, and they're like, "All right, come back in 2 weeks." And then you come back in 2 weeks, and then they give you the answers to the quiz with a couple of wrong ones, and bam,
it didn't go down like that for me. It was an Asian dude that was hosting the classes and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
he definitely took me for a drive. I actually was showing some other old ladies how to drive. He's like, look at how he spins the wheel. You gotta look how he spins the wheel. I'll never forget it. But learning how to drive, my girl, I hope she's watching right now. My Uncle Philip, he had this like the Scooby-Doo kind of van, like the Volkswagen van that was a stick shift. and I stole that joint. I hope he's not listening. I stole that joint, and I drove it to my girl's crib, and I showed her how to drive stick shift in that one because, like, the way the clutch was set up in that car, it wouldn't cut off. Like, no matter what you did, the joint would not cut off. So we both pretty much learned how to drive stick on that car. My mom did show me how to kind of drive a little bit, put me behind the wheel in her Camry, I remember. But how to drive stick shift was definitely on that car, that's for sure. But the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to bring this to your attention again. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, and you said you weren't really on the side of this. Are you concerned now?
Yeah.
I thought your mic muted for you.
My brain muted, man.
Yeah, right.
I am concerned now, yeah, because it's just it's. I don't know. I think you know what made me concerned is what you just said like a minute or so ago when you said, I think we thought that Jalen Hurts could overcome all the discrepancies, and now I think that there's just too much for him to overcome by himself right now. So I am concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned. It's a concern.
I'm extremely concerned, and Gretz said, "Yep." Until this day. Big shout out to the gang. Let's go. And I see Kai said his parents got tired of dropping and picking him up from work, so they made sure I knew how to drive. Yeah, that's how it be. You know, you get old enough and it's like, here, man, take these keys.
I had the Ford Ranger. I had the Ford Ranger before I even had my license. I was driving that bad boy by myself with the learner's permit.
Pat was taking his pop's joint too.
Oh my God, I remember.
We used to.
Remember what the one time when they took the car and then they dropped the keys in the hole of the basketball hoop at Evans?
Bro, the odds, yo! I remember Brad was losing his mind. The key fell behind the basketball pole where it was like into the concrete.
Yo, I mean, listen, we can tell you
like,
guys.
Dad, I don't know how the car got down here to the basketball courts. I don't know how the car got here. You gotta just leave that joint. Yeah, bro, that was wild, man. But yeah, I'm concerned for the Eagles, man. They're not playing well against teams that they should be at least beating, like at least by a few points. You watching the Cardinals, and this was one of my worries. The Cardinals could put up points. You remember me talking about that in the preview show when you saw it against the San Francisco 49ers? They can put up points, and if that Eagles defense couldn't, contain Kyler Murray, it was going to be a problem. And Murray was making some plays, man. I'm a fan. Oh,
bro. Yeah, you know me. I love me some Kyler Murray. And big shout out to Kyler Murray because he's a G. Showed up into the game rocking the Sidney Crosby jersey. For those of you that don't know, Sidney Crosby, one of the best hockey players in all of the land, plays. I hate the team he plays for because he plays for the Penguins. But Kyler Murray rolled up to Philly rocking the Pittsburgh Penguins Sidney Crosby jersey. They should have known as soon as they saw him walk in wearing that jersey. They should have known. That was some real G stuff. And the way he plays, I think people forget that. Like, there were moments during that D-Hop run where you're like, he is a cheat code. This is like he's playing a video game. And I think after the injury, people forgot about it. And then they're like, oh, the studying and the Call of Duty playing and all that, blah, 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 blah. It's just stuff that people feed people that make them like distort their reality vision of what people are really doing. So,
yeah, and that's why I brought that up. Like, we got to stop trying to fool ourselves with these quarterbacks, man. Like, numbers mean stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you also got to just use your eyes. And when you use your eyes and you see a player like Kyler Murray, there's no way we can look at him. I really think the same thing for a guy like Justin Fields, who has struggled this year a bit, right? And the numbers look eerily similar to last year, minus the 1,000 yards rushing, obviously, right? But you got to just use your eyes and look around at what's going on with the Chicago Bears system, what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals, right? There are a few weapons over there in Chicago. DJ Moore is definitely being used the proper way, but Darnell Mooney is like, you got to find a way to part ways with Darnell Mooney. He's just not it. And I think both those quarterbacks, like, yeah, they have their weaknesses, but I think that they're great playmakers. And I think the NFL is more about making plays, and then this is what we said about Jalen Hurts. He was such a dynamic runner coming into the league that to clean up and fix the mechanics and get him to be a good thrower, once you did that, he was going to be on his way to greatness. And I think same thing goes for guys like Kyler Murray and Justin Fields. And, to kind of bring this back to the New York Giants just a little bit here. When the New York Giants went against the authentic grain and signed Daniel Jones to the 4-year deal and whatnot, right? All right. It's done. I looked at it like there's no going back from this. There's nothing I can do to figure out what we're going to do at the quarterback position here. Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback moving into the year. It was imperative that you put a wide receiver 1 around that kid, not banking on a guy like Darren Waller. And when I see DeAndre Hopkins right now in a system that has gone through 3 quarterbacks go out there and put up 1,000 yards, I'm killing myself right now, and I'm killing Joe Shane and the New York Giants for not going out there and spending I think it was $12 million to bring in a guy like D-Hop if you were absolutely going to run it back with a quarterback like Daniel Jones. Because when you signed Daniel Jones to that contract, you said to yourself, we're not really committing to a rebuild directly. You're committing to what you said when you first came here, which was we're going to try to compete while we rebuild. I think you absolutely needed a wide receiver 1 to do that, and D-Hop could have been the guy. He was out there. He was in free agency. He was available. Titans scooped him up. They're not in a much better situation than the New York Giants, but D-Hop, another 1,000-yard season. And people were saying this guy was washed just last year when he was pushing some really good numbers with the Cardinals in 9 games.
Yeah. Dropped the ball on that one.
Dropped the ball on that one. Good vibes tonight, man. I didn't think this show was going to go almost 2 hours. Good vibes. All losses in the NFC East outside of Dallas Cowboys. Again, big congratulations to all of y'all for getting that W. Dallas Cowboys are one of the more hotter teams, man, and the Los Angeles Rams, getting ready to go into the playoffs. Looks like the Cowboys are going to have the number 2 seed likely here? Number 2, maybe number 3 seed?
Yeah, 2, probably the 2 seed.
Yeah,
I would think so because
forward as well.
Because I think they have the 2, like that win over Detroit pretty much locked Dallas in. If they lose,
lose and Detroit wins, Detroit would get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, and then if Dallas loses to. They can't. They won't. But if they do lose to Washington, that's going to be detrimental to them.
Yeah, that'll be huge.
Seeding-wise.
We saw it last year with the number 1 seed on the line for the Dallas Cowboys. They lost to y'all in Sam Howell's debut.
Yep.
So anything is possible. I see one more question from Gregory here one time. Gregory says, Awthentik and Beard, did you guys get goosebumps when Jimmy Johnson was added to the Cowboys Ring of Honor? I didn't get a chance to see it. I missed that portion of it, but I had a homie that was out there, the homie Nix, who does a lot of Cowboys content. He was at the game, so I know for Cowboys fan, that's amazing. My brother's a Cowboys fan, and the Beard's sister's a Cowboys fan, so, definitely close to the kin there one time when it comes to the rivalries and whatnot, but that's awesome. And we got another super chat from the homie Behind the Fiends one time.
Big shout out to Behind the Fiends for the $10 super chat. Says Happy New Year's, fellas. 1, I think the Giants need to trade for Fields. There's potential. I think there's a lot of teams that are feeling like that right now.
Yeah.
Dable seems to have lost his cool and maybe the locker room. Number 3, do we trade the coach for picks?
Ooh, okay. So for me, I've stood on this stance too for a long time. I think Brian Dable did enough in the first season to warrant to at least get a 3rd season. So I'll kind of start backwards on this here. Justin Fields, I think the timing is wrong from a salary cap standpoint, because what do you do? If you trade for Fields, the only way I think you can do it is if Daniel Jones was involved in the trade. I don't think that Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears want anything to do with Daniel Jones. That's just my opinion on it. And especially when you have the first pick right there, it just doesn't make sense. The timing for me would have been better last year before you gave Daniel Jones the contract. I was all about Justin Fields. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I love his running capability. I'm a big fan of quarterbacks that can run like that, and I feel like he has the arm strength and arm talent to be a top-notch guy in this league. So I think the timing is a little bit wrong this year. And then just the other thing you got to consider, you sign Justin Fields going into next year, he'll be in year 4. You're literally going to repeat the same exact thing you did with Daniel Jones. You're going to have to assess a quarterback going into his 5th year and have to figure out if you're going to decline a 5th-year option or give him the 5th-year option, and then you're going to be right back into trying to sign him for a big contract if you want to keep him around. I think it's best if the Giants just go out there and draft their quarterback in the 2024 draft.
I totally agree with you on that. And as far as the other 2 things, listen, there's going to be ups and downs when you have a season like the Giants are having. Has he lost the locker room? I'm never a guy to try and figure out answers to that because I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know. That's all perception at this point. And trading the coach for picks, I don't think that anybody's going to give you guys draft picks for Dable anyway, so I don't think that would happen.
I disagree with you on that. A team like the Chargers would absolutely give picks for a guy like Brian Dable because he's an offensive, don't want to say a mastermind. I'm looking for a better word for that, but he's a very high level offensive coach. And I think he does need to go into calling his own plays. I think that he would benefit from that and allowing Wink Martindale to just handle the defense and don't worry about Mike Kafka. But I do think there are teams out there that could use a coach like Brian Dable, the Chicago Bears being one of them. So, like, if you were to talk about Daniel Jones and Dable, maybe for Fields, it would make a little bit more sense, but I still don't like the timing on it. And the locker room part, yeah, I feel you on that. It's hard to gauge it. Sometimes it's so blatant you already know, like Joe Judge, we knew. Ben McAdoo, we knew. You know, it got so bad with the injuries, we knew. And you're dealing with it a little bit in Washington, but it is hard to tell not being in the locker room. Like, are these guys still fighting for Ron Rivera? I will say this, the New York Giants, the players are still out there fighting, it seems, for Brian Dable.
Tough situation.
Yeah,
Big shout out to Behind the Fiends, because I think that I think a lot of people get upset with that, because it's a fine line between, you know, like fighting for your team and just being like, it's getting old sort of situation. So I can understand that.
Yeah, there's like especially with Saquon, like, I don't know, man. I don't like the question effort, but like, it seems like he's not really in it until the game starts to get close down towards the end of the game.
And how much of that does it correlate to not being in it?
Yeah,
until the second half of the game. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of it is that, and I agree with you on this. Behind the Fiends, like, yeah, I'm tired of the tantrums. I've talked about that, and people are like, oh, you know, Bill Parcells. Giants fans love to revisit history, like everything repeats itself. And I remember when I was talking about Dable losing his cool when he ran back to the locker room during the Tyrod Taylor thing at the end of the first half against the Buffalo Bills, right? And he told the lady who was interviewing him, I'm too distraught to answer those questions right now. That's not the kind of shit you want to see from your head coach. I want to see a guy who's cool, calm, collective, resilient, ready to go, make the second half adjustments, come back out and win the game. And in a game where you held the Buffalo Bills to 14 points, we couldn't win that game. And a lot of that goes on the coaching. A lot of that goes on Tyrod Taylor as well. But I'm right there with you. The tantrum, that stuff is goofy, man. Like, I'm sick and tired of seeing him on the sidelines losing his cool. And he did it in this game too. I saw him after the 2-point conversion with Tyrod. He missed the throw, man. That's it. You knew you had a backup quarterback in there who was erratic throughout the whole entire game. There was a stretch there where Tyrod caught a little wind and he was just extremely accurate in the second half, just darting throws. But outside of that, he was missing throws throughout that game. So why with everything on the line, 12 inches away from the goal line, you throw the ball?
Have him throw the ball and get upset at him.
And then you get upset. It's like, I get it. He missed the damn throw, but it's not like he made like a mental blunder. He just messed up the throw. And that's why he's a backup quarterback, you know? So for me, I mean, it's easy to call it in hindsight. It's 20/20 vision, obviously. But, like, we pay our running back big dollars. Why did y'all pay him if he can't get in from 12 inches out? Pause. Right?
Big shout out to Behind the Fiends for the $2 super chat. Says Dable wanted the Chargers job. I bet you a lot of people want the Chargers job.
Yeah. And now it's looking a little worse because they were such a bad team this year. The Chargers got, what, 5 wins?
Something like that. I don't even know. I didn't even remember watching them play this week. Oh, yeah, I do, because I remember it was Easton Stick versus Jared Stidham.
Yeah, they're 5-11. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? So I don't know how big of a destination that is now with all those players getting older. You know, you got Mack over there. You got Keenan Allen over there. Mike Williams hurt and getting older. Austin Eckler needs a contract. Older running back. Like, those weapons don't look as good as they once did.
You got the quarterback. That's about the quarterback and Bosa. But Bosa's been banged up too. Oh, let's not forget about Derwin James, though. Derwin James is a good guy.
James, yeah. He's a baller.
He's a baller.
Yep, he's definitely a baller. Behind the Fiends is feeding. Behind the feeding.
Shout out Behind the Fiends for the $5 super chat. Let's remember Dable has never experienced being on a bad team or a mediocre one. He was part of the Bama and New England dynasty. He seems lost. That's a very interesting point. I mean, you experience losses, but you experience a lot, not like losing like how it is right now, you know, so.
Yeah, losing culture, you know, that's more what he's talking about. Like, it's a bad team right now.
It's a lot going on. Listen.
You know, I commend people that go out and put takes like this out in the world. You know, this is like not being frightened at all. And this is actually why I get down with Dilla, who I was talking about earlier, that y'all need to go sub to his channel, because even last year he was talking about stuff like this with Joe Shane and Brian Dable, when a lot of people are very hesitant, you know, especially content creators. They don't want to, like, you know, throw out egregious takes because they're so worried about them being wrong. For me, I don't care, man. I'm like, yo, if the take is wrong, the take is wrong. I don't mind being wrong about it, you know, and I don't mind switching my stance on it either and pivoting when I get more information on it. But I do commend people that go out there and say stuff like this, because after Brian Dable won the Coach of the Year, everybody was just putting Brian Dable up on his high horse like he can do no wrong. And, you know, he came back, and a lot of the things that were addressed in the front office with Joe Shane, you know, and Brian Dable as a coach now, with teams getting more tape on him, both of them have regressed this year with the moves that they've made in the offseason, with the contracts signed. And, you know, a lot of the contracts that were signed in the offseason, you know, Andrew Thomas being one of the guys early on, Dexter Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley on a one-year deal, you're kind of trying to, like, show your fan base that you're building this team to go out and win a championship soon. And this is why I say none of these players are off limits for me, because the Giants don't look like a team that's going to win a championship anytime soon. So what's the point of paying all these players all this big money to stay around here and be a part of a losing culture? So there's a part of this that I agree with a lot. Like, yeah, he does seem a little bit lost. And as far as, you know, the other coaches that are on our coaching staff, guys like Bobby Johnson and McGahee on the special teams end of things, these guys should have been fired, to be honest. You know, I'm never one to really call for people's jobs like that. But, like, when your department, or when guys underneath you are in their department and they're not handling business, it's now on you as the head coach. And I think that's where Brian Dable's experience, or lack of experience being a head coach, is not showing up in times like that. Everyone on this offensive line has regressed or gotten injured. Every last one of them. JMS as a rookie has been hurt. Andrew Thomas has been hurt. And Andrew Thomas is starting to look like a guy who now is, like, kind of injury prone. No real big injuries, right? But he's had injuries that have held him out, like, for, you know, 2/3 of his career.
And that's crazy, because that was like one of the biggest pushbacks from that whole conversation was Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas. And that's why I don't
that
care.
The Tunsil point, those.
You notice how I didn't even say that on Twitter? I want people to figure that out on their own, because Lermy Tunsil was traded from the Dolphins, right?
Dolphins,
or the Texans to the Dolphins.
Texans to the Dolphins?
Can't remember which one it was, but either way, right? Let me see. So I want to let me look up this trade. I want to look it up. But it's like, he's not even talked about nowadays. You know what I'm saying? It's like not even talked about. So it was a trade in 2019. And it was Miami dealt Lermy Tunsil to the Texans. Come on, bro. You think Miami's sitting back looking at that like, man, I wish we had Lermy Tunsil right now. And I love Andrew Thomas, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, this is the thing about the fan base, that they fall in love with these players, and they're like, nope, we got that fixed. Washington fans felt like that about Chase Young a little bit too, some of them. And a lot of them felt like that about Montez Sweat. We don't know if it's going to be the right move or not. But at the end of the day, man, it's just one player. Somebody responded to that tweet today, and they said the best thing. They said the only player in the NFL who's off limits is Patrick
Mahomes.
That's it. That's it, bro. Rest of these dudes, look, if it means improving my team, getting back assets, I'm all for it. A lot of these people who don't want to trade players like that now, they're the ones running around saying, yeah, we won the Odell Beckham trade. Right? So it's like, to me, it's just one player, man. If you could give me back a wide receiver 1 and a serviceable offensive lineman for Andrew Thomas, I would do it. Look, y'all call me crazy, man. I don't care. I don't care.
There's plenty of guys you can get. I mean, you got 7 rounds to go to grab a couple more big boys to throw up on the line. You know what I'm saying?
Man. Yeah, bro. It's right now the New York Giants are such in a poor place, and I'm not one of those people that's going to allow the 2022 season to dictate how I feel about this team. Like, oh, we got to get back to that. No, we're not getting back to that no time soon right now. Like, we got a terrible quarterback situation, terrible offensive line situation. Our defense looks pretty decent, but they're extremely young. Not many veterans. I do expect Bobby Okereke to come back next year and be more of a leader on this defense. But you absolutely got to shore up that second cornerback position. You're probably going to lose a guy like Adoree Jackson, who's a decent cornerback, right? But you're going to have to get some depth pieces on that defense. Wide receivers on the offense, you don't got You got Wan'Dale Robinson, and we praying to God that Jalen Hyatt is going to turn into something. But, to the people like the Kyle Pizzles that were saying Jalen Hyatt is going to make us forget about the original number 13. Do you remember those takes in the summer? Do you remember the people that were saying we're going to look back at this Daniel Jones contract and it's going to be a bargain? I was sitting up here like, bro, look, I ain't no capologist. I ain't no mathematician, right? But I look at Gardner Minshew and Marcus Mariota getting paid like $5 million, and we giving this guy $40 million. I just looked at it, and I'm like, bro, that don't add up. That
the
math
was not math.
Absolutely not. And now we're starting to see it, and people are like, oh, but we were in a rebuild. These are the same people that were saying it wasn't a rebuild last year. When I would be like, this is a rebuild, they'll be like, man, you're crazy. This ain't no rebuild. Like, what were y'all seeing?
They were seeing that cupcake schedule, my friend.
Yeah, that cupcake schedule definitely hurt us,
that
man.
Minnesota Vikings playoff win.
Oh, that definitely hurt us. Ignoring the Philadelphia Eagles blowout loss. Just completely ignored it. Like, but what about Daniel Jones in the playoffs? Carl Banks and Bob Papa were talking on their podcast, and Banks put up one of the quotes from there where they were talking about why last year's team managed to win these close games. And Bob Papa credited Daniel Jones on it, right? So you know me. He was like, he said, Bob Papa was like, yeah, Daniel Jones had 5 game-winning drives. He was great last year. I had to chime in. One of my homies, he DM'd me, so I'm not going to put his name out there. I'm going to ask him if I could put his name out there for next show, right? He's a content creator as well. He was like, yo, Awthentik, I just wanted to try to find those numbers you had posted last year about the 5 game-winning drives because I remember you trying to convince me that a lot of that was Saquon Barkley and not Daniel Jones. And he was like, I just wanted to come here and give you your props on that. You were absolutely right on that. I was like, man, thanks for reminding me on that. So I went back to the Carl Banks thread, and I posted all the numbers. How are we going to say Daniel Jones was the reason for those 5 game-winning drives when Saquon Barkley had more touchdowns, more yards on less touches? Daniel Jones didn't have one pass that was a first down that went past the sticks. He had 26 air yards in 5 game-winning drives. Just think about that. 26 yards that go past the line of scrimmage on all the throws in 5 game-winning drives.
That's true.
40 rushing yards. He was 10 for 12. He was 10 for 12. Come on. And then I got people that jumped into that thread. They're the same old Daniel Jones. I'm gonna be respectable here, okay? I could have went crazy there. They're just the same old Daniel Jones extreme fanatics, right? And they're like, well, what about the Jaguars game? And what about these other games? I'm like, bro, they talking about the 5 game-winning drives, man. Like, all of that is why are we moving the goalposts? If we're gonna talk about the 5 game-winning drives, let's talk about them. The Green Bay one, Daniel Jones absolutely led this team down there to win that game. But outside of that, man, the 7-2 was on the back of Saquon Barkley. And when he's not in the lineup, that's why a lot of our fan base just complains and goes, but Saquon ain't out there. I saw Pizzle today asking people, how many snaps did we have Andrew Thomas, Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones on the field for? Bro, who cares?
That's
not
football.
The reason why, it's football. It's not the reason why we're losing games, man.
Nobody has the same starting lineup from week 1 that they do in week 18. Nobody.
It's just what it is, man. It is what it is. And it ain't what it once was. These guys, look, we got to just get over these players that have been on the roster. And again, nobody's off limits. Nobody's off limits.
Nope.
Got to find a quarterback that's going to stretch the field. I see you behind the Fiends that you talking good game right now. Definitely. And Big Dog, I see you, bro. I definitely see you, bro. Like, the writing was on the wall. For the New York Giants, running it back, as soon as they committed to running it back, I'll never forget the spaces that we were in with me, Base, Sal, Rob, BT, Stan. Shout out to Stan. Ash, Nunu, Jabri. Shout out to the gang, man. My gang no ball. That's one thing. We were all like, why are they running it back? What the hell did we look at last year to go, let's run it back one more time? And here we are.
Quarterback away.
Quarterback away. One more game, man. One more game, bro, and then we can really get off into some off-season content. I really can't wait to do a summary because I'm going to do a piece of pre-recorded content here coming up soon with a summary of the season. Go back and revisit the first 5 mini videos that I did, which were about the quarterback, not wanting to sign the quarterback, wanting to go bridge quarterback, wanting to bring in D-Hop, being excited and ecstatic about bringing in Isaiah Simmons. Daniel Jones looking great in camp. Didn't translate. Do you remember Daniel Jones and Darren Waller at camp? Oh, my God.
It's a mirage, my friend.
Yeah, it was definitely a mirage. You in the desert, saw a lemonade stand, thirsty as hell, run up to it, ain't nothing but sand. It's tough.
Cardi B
It's
on
tough.
a camel.
Yeah, it's tough being a New York Giants fan. And good to be up here with the strong side. I guess maybe we should change it up. Maybe you should be the left side, and I should be the strong side here, being that the New York Giants are just a little better than y'all this year. And you're on the left side on the show, too.
It's too late, man. I can't change it.
It's too late. It's too late. I definitely feel you, man. But big shout out to the gang, man. We definitely appreciate y'all pulling up tonight, man. I wanted this show to go over 2 hours. This show needed to go over 2 hours, and we did just breach that mark. We will be back here on Thursday for our last NFC East regular season preview show. But we will be covering the playoffs this year as well. I'll be on Bleacher Report tomorrow. I think talking about some trade ideas. I think that's going to be the topic. The stream will be at 1 p.m. if y'all want to pull up. Shout out to everybody that been rocking with me on Bleacher Report. That community is growing so fast. Like now I'm up there with all the top New York Giants content creators as far as people that are following our streams. And I just got word from a bunch of people that sometimes when they try to come to the stream, they can't even chat in the stream. So we're losing out on some of the network of people that are tuning in for those streams, which I got to have a talk with Bleacher Report about that. And my name is not searchable on the platform, which is definitely hurting me as well. So we got to have a chat with them. But they did renew the contract. I'm doing the next month as well with Bleacher Report as well. So there'll be some off-season content on Bleacher Report and some off-season content here, some playoff content as well. We'll see how things go, man. But like, I just want to see our teams, man. I feel for you as well, bro. Like, I just want to see our teams get at least in the mix, man. Like, the gap is widening in the NFC.
Well, listen,
East.
I'll give you one positive, another positive thing here, right? You like cupcakes?
I like cupcakes.
I like
I don't want that
cupcakes,
extra
too.
artificial frosting, but
Yeah,
I like
no,
some
I don't
cupcakes.
know. Did you
Yeah.
know that you can? Did you know that you can? Have we had this discussion before, where you can cut the cupcake in half and then put that on top of the cupcake, and it's like a cupcake sandwich?
Oh, that would make the frosting more tolerable. I like
Exactly.
that.
I never
Smart.
knew that.
That's
That
a lot
apparently,
for a cupcake, though, bro. You know.
no, that's the thing. Apparently, that's what cupcakes have been supposed to be made for this whole time.
Nah, come on now. I can't go for that. Why wouldn't they just make it like that then?
But
Two-layer
listen-
cake. You know the layer cake with the little frosting.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is. But next year we might have one of those.
Schedule wise,
Schedule wise,
who does the NFC East play? Who's
I don't know, but don't we have like last place schedules and stuff?
Last place schedule didn't help me this year.
Well, I mean, Daniel Jones is hurt.
I hate you guys. Yeah, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets. It's widening, bro. It's getting worse. It's definitely getting worse. I forget who we play next year. I know people have talked about the division we play next year. It's not going to be good. Giants are going to be a bad team next year. I can't speak for you. It's not looking good for y'all either. It's definitely not looking good for y'all either, man. But big shout out to the gang, man. We appreciate all y'all pulling up, man, rocking out with us today on this edition of Awthentik and The Beard. Make sure to catch us on Thursday, preview show, and then no parlay on Sunday. Dang. Parlay on Sunday. Fantasy football is over. A lot of people won championships, though. Big shout out to all of y'all who tagged us on Twitter and whatnot, won some championships. I know us. Sebastian was one of them. Chris Peace in a 2-week championship. Best of luck to Chris Peace, too, man. So big shout out to all y'all who got the W, man. Beard, any last words before we get them up out of here, bro?
Nah, this is an awesome show. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys definitely showed up. Like, it's crazy. Like, where this is right now, season-wise, stats-wise, and everything like that. Like, to see everybody showing up and showing out and having good conversation, making good points, no bickering, just a lot of fun. So I think that it's a good reminder that football can be fun, even if you're not doing well.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Kareem Yee, definitely check me out on Twitter. I usually tweet out the Bleacher Report streams right before I go live if you want to check those out. Big shout out to Behind the Fiends, bro. We definitely appreciate you supporting the channel. He said, I just want to see the New York Giants and Washington Commanders rivalry mean something again. We right there with you, bro. We right there with you. We got another offseason, at least one more to wait. The Beard shirt says, get smoked. That's what we've been doing all year long. Oh, it's got the Commanders on it, too. I mean, how appropriate.
Half smokes, these
How
half
appropriate,
smokes.
except y'all getting full smoked out there one time. But yeah, man, big shout out to all of y'all, man. We appreciate y'all, man. Until next time, Y'all know what it is. We'll catch y'all on the next episode of Authentic and the Beard. Y'all be good. We'll catch y'all.
Peace.